If I could have everyone go ahead and take their seats. If anyone new has joined us, if you could please silence your cell phones. This is the regular meeting for the Livingston Parish Planning Commission, July 8th, 2025. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Mr. Engler?
Here, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Here.
Mr. Watts? Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Wack?
Here.
Mr. Dana?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here. Here.
Ms. Ferris?
Here.
Ms. Long?
Right, first item on the agenda is adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting dated June 5th, 2025. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion to approve that.
All right, have a motion from Mr. Wax, a second from Mr. Clemens. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens? Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wack?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
I abstain. Okay, first agenda item is a recommendation from the Master Plan Review Committee for the master plan to have a codified plan on dealing with legacy drainage issues. For example, detention ponds. Mr. Burgess, here to
Yes.
speak on behalf of that item.
Yes, ma'am. Ralph Burgess, I'm chairman of the Master Plan Committee. Tonight we have a recommendation to bring to you guys regarding legacy issues regarding drainage detention ponds and such matters like that in existing subdivisions. One of the things we want to look at is to put a section in the master plan addressing this issue and eventually going on to be codified further down the line so we can address drainage detention parish. Just some highlights of this particular part is number one is to hold homeowner associations.
Mr. Burgess, could you speak up just a
Just
little
a little bit more? I'm
Yes,
sorry. All right,
thank you.
That's fine. Closer. Excuse me. Anyway, bring homeowners associations to ownership of the issues if they're failing to for that. Then have decide whether DPW or gravity drainage district should or could respond to that particular issue. That was part of that. And just to kind of further go along of this particular thing we have here is to some of the things to codify it was, who owns the property that will that the work will be performed upon. Is that homeowner association? Is that in particular property owner? If the detention pond is involved, is the pond wet or dry? Of course, that's going to determine what has to be done to it. Is a civil engineering review required, especially if we have drainage in the drainage districts. We probably won't have their civil engineers involved with that. How long has the problem persisted? If they have had no maintenance on it, if there's a drainage issue through the pond, that type of deal. Number 5, like I said, I'm just kind of reading these through so everybody can hear it. How many homes are directly or indirectly involved when there's a problem that manifests from drainage detention pond? What is the cost for the remedy? Is this something that has to be borne by the parish? What's the actual cost? Is it going to be borne by the HOA association versus to the parish scenario? How long is acceptable between identifying problem and a resolution is acceptable? Is this something as a minor, or is this something major we have to do immediately? Right. And then it's basically bringing it down to a worksheet type of accumulation point thing. Make the severity of that. I've kind of hit the high points of it. Mr. Clemens was the author on the board, and Mr. Clemens, would you mind speaking a little bit more in detail with this since you authored it, please?
As we move forward, passing ordinances in the parish, we're doing great. I mean, we're working hard. We're passing a lot of new rules. Things are changing. Unfortunately, we already built a lot of things here that weren't building up to the standards that we're establishing now. In some cases, those people are starting to have some severe drainage issues by things that are all being built legally. So how do we respond to those issues? There's not enough money in this parish to fix them all, but we have to have a good reason why we fix this one and not that one. So if we put it in the master plan recommending that ordinances be written to address the legacy issues and to codify it in such a way that whenever you fix this neighborhood and not that neighborhood, you can defend it in court. So when you get sued because we fixed this one and not that one, we have to have a set series of rules that we follow in fixing the legacy issues. So the recommendation was to include in the master plan that a legacy plan be implemented for things that were built prior to current ordinance.
Correct. So as y'all know, the master plan in its entirety is basically a footpath forward for the parish to set their rules and regulations for. So this is what this is request is to put this in the master plan as a path forward for the future, so the future councils can have a path of what we are looking for to address these legacy.
So the request is not to actually put the language for how to address it in the master plan as much as to put something in the master plan that asks for it to be addressed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
Master plan isn't
Mr. Byrne? Well, I don't know if we need a motion.
This would be more of an introduction for
This
you
would be
guys.
more of an introduction.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then
so,
we would go, and then we would actually have a more public hearing to question it
right.
at the next
So
meeting.
my concern with this overall is that we're hopefully a month-ish out from a new master plan. I don't particularly have any concerns with this, but I think a better place for it would be to get it into our new master plan rather than to have it live in our current one for 4 to 6 to maybe 8 weeks, hopefully less than that, since a new one is supposed to be coming within a month and a half. I think it would be better brought to WSP for inclusion in the new master plan.
So just to clarify that, just remember from this point forward, even though the master plan that WSP is working on has to mainly deal with the zoning land use items, the master plan from this point forward or after that's released can always be amended and updated
That's
by the
correct.
parish as it needs to be. So for instance, when you said new, my point was this will be the new updated with the new land use and everything, and then everything from that point forward, say this particular motion or the next one we have, or we'll try to include those in these. The issues would be simple revisions to the master plan going forward.
Right.
And
Which
as
we've
a parish,
done.
we can do as
Yeah.
we need, and that's why we have the master plan review committee. So,
Right. Which we've done some of that on recommendations from master plan already.
Correct.
One of the things was like the population tables that we updated.
Correct.
So we have an established process for that. It's just so close at this point that we could adopt that today, but I want to make sure there's a mechanism by which that gets put into the new master plan.
we still need to go through the public hearing process to do it properly. So
I'm not following that. So
we have no public input tonight. This is like an introduction.
Right.
So we have to make it where the public, since this is the planning body,
Mhm.
where the public can come and address their concerns to the planning body at that time to move it further into the master plan.
if we chose to introduce it.
If you chose to introduce it
Right.
next meeting. Correct. I'm just saying, we have to do that public hearing.
Mr. Mangus.
Yeah, John Mangus, 28283 South Satsuma. To address Mr. Clemens, when you talked about to put verbiage in there that would say, like, why we would clean out one retention pond as opposed to another. Just for an instance, when I was at Gravity Journey H2 last night, Mr. Seal explained that some subdivision, there's obviously retention and detention ponds. Some are pass-through, like Belmont. Hidden Lakes is going to actually be a pass-through to Belmont. And if anything happens to that, it affects the drainage. So that might be I'm not a lawyer, but that might be a for instance of ones that it's in the public health and safety welfare that we do step up, because as a former president of HOA Association, there's not a lot of money to maintain those ponds. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
As I see it, we have the option to make the recommendation to WSP that it be included. But he's absolutely correct. For us to do that would require a public hearing, in which case this needs to be an introduction. Then it needs to go to an agenda for public hearing. At that point in time, we make the recommendation. If WSP is already done with their work, then we'll have to wait till we finish. And then we could make an amendment then. But I suggest we go ahead and make it as introduction tonight.
This information, this document, hasn't it already been sent to WSP?
This gets into another area here. We've been given some directives on how to communicate everything, okay? At one point, we had everybody on every commission calling WSP and calling our lawyers as well. And the administration brought to our attention that we need to have a central focus on each commission. There needs to be one spokesperson. And so as
Right.
master plan review, we have not been doing that. We've been having one person as our contact point.
Right.
But that contact point comes to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Let me have some input. Mr. Scooter, I wanted to address that. Can't you send this straight to WSP for inclusion into the updated master plan?
Yeah, if you get it to me, I will. I'll send it straight to them.
We can just give it to you.
Yeah, because I do that every week. I get recommendations from different councilmen, different things. That doesn't mean they're going to act on it. They may want to wait. I don't know what their process is once they get it. Every week we get an update like we talked about in the office last week. And I talked to Nathan for 25 minutes yesterday about all the new things that are happening, deadlines, all this thing. Anything that y'all would like to see included in the master plan update, because you're not voting on it until it's all presented, right, Steve? They present it, public hearing, so anything you add to it will be advertised then. So I think that would be a perfect way to do it.
Back to my question on this one and some more to come. We can just give it to you if we recommend that it be put in the updated master plan. You forward these documents on to WSP immediately.
Correct. And if the council gets it and they say, well, we don't want that in there, they'll just strike it.
Well, it's coming back to us when we approve the updated master plan in the next month or so.
That's how they would work it.
What y'all could do is recommend as a planning council to have sent to Scooter or planning department, add.
And we'll get it to Nathan.
Right. As the master plan review committee, we answer to you guys. We're part of that. That's our chain.
The public hearing part is going to come when we have a public hearing on the updated master plan.
The updated master plan.
Right.
That's
Probably.
what Steve just said.
I think we should probably defer to legal counsel on that, because in the future, any master plan changes, that is the way that we would want to approach it, as an introduction and a public hearing.
That is correct.
And so if we need to do that with this one,
We
I'm not
don't have
entirely
time.
opposed.
We don't have time to do that.
But if it's not legal, it doesn't matter if we have time or not.
It's
So
coming
that's
back to us, Mr. Sarah.
I understand, but I would like Mr. Irving to weigh in on that if he could, how we should approach this for tonight.
Mike.
The process of creating a master plan involves numerous meetings and receipt of a lot of information. So if you, through whatever means you want, provide the information to the people who are working on the master plan, it's going to make a big circle back. If they include it in the master plan, then when the master plan comes back to you, because it will come back to you, and as an advertised hearing complete process. You can look at what they did with it. If there's something in the master plan that you don't agree with, that you think should be different, you're going to have a hearing there where you receive the information and an opportunity to make whatever changes you think are appropriate, and then pass it on. That's the process. So it's at this point in time, it just involves receipt of information, and so
That's all.
you have a lot of options in terms of being able to supply the information.
Okay.
That's great.
So I do just,
That's what I thought.
Go ahead and submit it. And
I do just want to make the distinction that that would be information that we are asking for in the creation of a new master plan, not a modification to the existing
Right.
master.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if you don't mind, if once we get the master plan approved, we have these modifications we want to do, it has to do the full public hearing route at that.
You will have a public hearing process that you have to go through that is going to be similar to the process of adopting the master plan.
And Sarah, that's, right now we're in that gray area, so if y'all want to send it directly to WSP, send it direct to WSP from my understanding. But once it's approved, anything we bring back, we'll have to go through the full public hearing process. I just want point of clarification.
Do we need to,
Okay, Mr.
do we have
Wax,
to
you
do that
had
in the
a
form of a
comment?
resolution to take his draft?
I
You have a
would-
draft,
Resolution.
right?
I would think it would be in the form of resolution.
It's a resolution.
Yes. Okay, do we have any other comments on that or questions? Okay, so what is the pleasure of the commission for how we proceed with this one? I think a resolution would be the way to go.
I would like to make that. I would like to make the motion in the form of a resolution to send this proposal on to WSP. To update in the updated master.
Mr. Keene, would you prefer that we do that as a resolution to send it to you or to WSP?
Or if you send it to me,
Okay.
let me get it to Nathan, and then he's coming next week, and y'all can talk to him about that. You're gonna be a-
Not me, y'all
That's
can.
okay. They can talk to him about anything.
All right, let me rephrase my resolution. I make a motion that we send, that we have a resolution to send this proposal on to WSP to be included in the comprehensive master plan update. And we send it, and the motion is to send it to Mr. Scooter King to send it to WSP.
All right, so we have a resolution, a motion from Mr. Burns and a second from Mr. Engler to send that item to Mr. Keene and on to WSP for consideration. Can we have a vote on that?
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes. Agenda item 5, recommendation from the Master Plan Review Committee for the Economic Corridor and the updated comprehensive master.
Okay.
Mr.
This
Burns.
this too
Ms.
would be
Burgess, sorry.
this too would be a resolution for you guys also based on the last one we just did. There's a letter you all should have received in your packet regarding this particular one. Our existing economic corridor, it states about the economic corridor is covered in the existing master plan on pages 11, 36, 41, 86, and 89 in 2013 comprehensive master plan. One of the things that we've looked into is it does not get into what's exactly allowed or what we would like to have in this economic corridor. One of the things we're looking at is to allow or make a statement which basically allows, of course, manufacturing, which is jobs for the parish. Major warehouses, again, we're looking at jobs for the parish. Also, retail centers. I know this is kind of a sticking point. I'll elaborate a little bit more. The high density living, which means townhouses, garden homes, multifamilies, and subdivisions with improvements. Of course, we would like to have schools there, being the schools, localized schools, or even college, technical colleges, stuff like that. Training centers, to bring people into training for potential jobs in the area, and industrial park for this area. Circling back to the high density living, the idea for the high density living is because of the potential of the corridor being a mixed use or other items that we would have rezoned to allow the high density use someone for a development, say of a large commercial complex that they need to bring their workers here or have work close by, which is the kind of the new stuff, new items where the particular development, they have young professionals who live adjacent or near that area. To have that, we need to have some high density residential in this area. So that was the part about the residential high density residential. We want to be able to have the high density because this economic corridor we have will also support our road networks, which we're working on a transportation plan on right now. Also support the additional drainage master plan that we want. This is along the interstate. We also are proposing, which is not on this particular agenda, just want to give you guys a heads up, is actually expanding the economic corridor to include the rail system and possibly another buffer zone of about north of this rail system. We want to attract we use the term smart growth, but I'm going to use the term smart businesses that were willing to put in good infrastructure, good businesses that will help economic develop the area. Type of deal. We do have the airport, things like that. This area, this existing corridor that will aid. All we want to do is help define this a little bit more to what is allowed in this economic corridor. Not just it's an economic corridor. Again, I'll let you know, Gerald Burns authored this. The master plan committee supported it, and it's here tonight for you. Mr. Gerald, if you allow Ms. Sarah, if Mr. Gerald will speak a little bit more in depth in it, I would like to speak.
Mr. Burns, you have some comments to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Ralph. I'd just like to expand on this a little bit. The existing master plan addresses what should not be in the corridor, and it goes into detail about tattoo parlors and adult toy shops and etc., but it does not say what should be in the corridor. In page 11 of the existing master plan, it talks about this area is expected to see the most demand for future growth, commercial, industrial, and even high-density residential. So we addressed what high-definition residential is in the corridor. Also on page 35, it talks about, it says, the purpose of these guidelines would be to make this corridor a vibrant commercial place, but it does not say. So we listed all of the things that would bring jobs and manufacturing, retail centers and schools and industrial parks and et cetera. So it adds what should be in the corridor on commercial and residential. So it's just an update on what should be in the corridor.
Okay. Mr. Mangus, I believe, has a comment.
John Mangus, 28283 South Satsuma. Quick question. On that statement you want to add, does it denote a preference? Because if it's just an economic corridor and all these things can be there, high density R2 subdivisions, as well as air liquide plan or something, I'm just making that up, but is it legal for us to state that we would prefer in the economic corridor industries that are going to, generate income? Because the only problem I have with the high density is the fact that if you look at your gravity drainages, besides one, that gets one millage, they're sales tax only. And unfortunately, a lot of your high density, they aren't going to shop here. And especially if it's not a multi-use where there's not convenience stores and gas stations and restaurants and all, the amount of property tax we would get would not offset if it was a regular subdivision, and nothing like Martin Brower or whatever pays. So if it's a true economic corridor, I think we should state not just what can be there, our preference to what we want. Because what if Canadian National wants to call in some of their leases and expand a spur, and now we've got an apartment complex there? No, I honestly, if it's going to be an economic corridor, we need to state that. We need to ask WSP for a list of what we would prefer, because the future use map that they showed us last week shows that. It shows all red along that area, and red being commercial and industrial. So it's nothing against subdivisions or apartment complexes or whatever, but they're a net loss for us without at least a mixed use, without something else.
I'd like to address that, Mr. John. One of the things that's in this letter right here, any commercial or high-density residential brings many, many sales taxes. When you build a house, the parish gets sales taxes. If you pour cement, it comes back to the parish. And when those people live there, they buy vehicles, and that sales taxes come back to this parish. But the most important thing is it comes back, the millages that all these high-density houses and commercial bring back to our schools and our first responders and parks and libraries and parish government. It's the millages that we win on, okay? So it's not a loss, it's a gain, a big-time gain.
Well, a high-density apartment complex would not pay the same property taxes as if let's say it's 400 units.
Yes, they would.
If it was 400 houses, that would
actually
be more.
They actually pay more taxes because they're commercial. They're not residential. They pay 10%.
I've
checked.
checked.
1%. They pay. I'm telling you,
that's why there's areas that want to do subdivisions that are all leased. That's already started in Baton Rouge, and I'm not saying I'm against it. I would just prefer more of an MU. And some of the things, the adages, that we've been told, like if you get enough rooftops, businesses will come. We've got 10% of the population in my district just along Walker South. There's not one restaurant on Walker South. There is one grocery store, Sibley's, used to be Harris, and at the roundabout at 16, that's the Mr. Fontenot and all has redone that. But we don't have that. What is that? Village Market or whatever. Village Market. Yeah. It didn't come. It's not set aside because we did not have the wherewithal or the fortitude to set aside and say, hey, you can't build right up to the edge of the road with residences. And I'm not saying we should say no to what your wording is, but we need a list of preference. For future use, we would prefer industry. Second, we would prefer this. But if we fill this whole thing up with subdivisions, then high density, well, we're never going to get a plant or anything. It's not going to happen. So that's just what I'm saying. I'm sorry to take up too much time in your meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mangus. All right, any other public comment on this? Okay, commissioners, comments, questions from the commission. Mr. Dana.
Yes, the wording with MU, it starts out to encourage, whereas R5 says to permit. R4 says to permit, to allow. The wording's different. I think that on D, if that was worded MU, high density, all that would fall under it. With MU, we get commercial. We get, we get both, and we can set a standard saying, well, under MU, we're going to do 15-20% commercial, and the rest 80% will be high density. So at least we are getting some commercial with it. And with MU, if you took D and just said MU and then put that underneath it, it's a lot better because it has a detailed plan, and it's not just open seasoning for high density homes along the economic corridor. An economic corridor, I mean, if you envision it, something like the industrial place, Choctaw, all those businesses, but I mean, it does allow for some high density living, but it goes through MU, and we can change that, and we can scrutinize it other than open season for.
Let me answer that. I hear what you're saying about mixed use and PUDs and so forth. The only area of Livingston Parish in the economic corridor, especially south of I-12, that's west of Walker, there is no more available large tracts of land for large subdivisions. It's not there. Outside it is, so this concentrates on inside the corridor, but you're right. West of Walker, towards Livingston, north and south, there is vast amounts of land that's available that some big developer could come in and do a mixed-use PUD. But he can still do that. This doesn't stop him from doing that. It doesn't address it. But they can still do that under high density. But when he does a PUD, he's going to do commercial and residential. But it doesn't stop someone from doing mixed use if they want to do it.
Yeah, but the term, the verbiage is to encourage versus to permit. It means to permit means if you think it's a good idea, okay. But it just seems like with MU, you're leveraging commercial along with the residential.
Sure.
And if it was tied to MU, then it's a lot better than just, okay, well, high density living. And that does cause some issues. If you look at areas like on Eden Church Road, just the north part of Jubin Road, they're way behind. We're dependent on a lot of these roads from the state to fix the roads and to widen them, and they're poor funded, So if we build too much too fast, we're going to turn areas that don't have all those problems into areas that do, So.
Right. Well, mixed use with PUDs is a good thing, but most of these things right here on the high density would not fall under a mixed use. It might just be, it might be 5 acres or 10 acres or whatever that doesn't address under MU, but it's not a problem if you want to add that. If you want to add mixed use under D, that would be planned unit development. If you want to add that, that's okay.
I just think that mixed use is better than just high density, because that seems contrary to the vision of an economic corridor, industrial, businesses, and it's not going to be all just businesses, that you do have to have some residential.
Then
but you
what
get
you're
more
saying
within
is,
you.
if it's not under mixed use, you can't do this stuff, okay? There's going to be a lot of standalone developments out there with garden homes at 5 or 10 acres that doesn't involve mixed use, okay? Mixed use should be an area, designed an area that large tracts of land where you want to do maybe 65% residential and 35% commercial and other things. But some of these tracts right here, multifamily homes might not be but 5 acres, so that doesn't apply to mixed use because you can't put commercial in there. I would suggest that we would add mixed use under and make it item 5 if you want to, but not make everything mixed use.
Mr. Clemens, I believe, had a comment.
Probably a non-sequitur turn at this point. It appears to me that this isn't quite ready for prime time. We've already been here 2 hours tonight, and we have quite a bit of business yet to discuss. I'd like to make a motion that we send this back to master plan review for further consideration.
We don't have time. We don't have time to go, this has been discussed in master plan for months.
I have a comment.
Can I finish mine?
Yes, sir. Finish your comment.
We've discussed this for months, and unanimously, everybody on the master plan review committee approved this document, sir. So we don't have time to send it back. We need to send it to Mr. Scooter King by resolution to put it in the master plan update so they can do it now. We got one more month. If you send it back to the master plan, it's dead on arrival.
That's not true, because we still have the opportunity. The master plan is an evergreen document that we could update at any point in time. So I tend to agree with Mr. Clemens, because based on what I've heard tonight is we need to hurry up and put high-density residential into our economic corridor, because everything east of Walker needs to be developed, because there's nothing west of
I
Walker
never
left.
said that.
The land west of Walker and west is taken.
No,
And so
not.
the only thing left to develop is east of that. So that gives me pause. I do not particularly think that we should be this granular with what we put in the economic corridor section of the master plan, strictly because it feels like it could conflict with what we do with zoning there and what we do with the future land use maps of the master plan. So I agree with Mr. Clemens that I think this needs more work and more consideration first.
So, let me address one thing, if you don't mind, real quick, Ms. Sarah, and this is very, very, very brief. This board here is a zoning board also. To your point, Mr. Gerald's point, Mr. Bryan's point, just remember that you have tools with the zoning we have. You actually have the physical zoning in this area. You have the future land use zoning, which you need to look at when you are looking at zoning. And then we have the economic corridor on top of that. So at any time, that is some of your basis. That should be your fundamental basis for your decisions on the zoning. The factorial basis, not the weighted basis. Okay, guys? That's all I wanted to speak on, Sarah, and just be very blunt with that, short with that.
A glaring issue that I see with this is the specific inclusion of garden homes, because we do not have an active zoning category today for garden homes. So I don't know that we want to call that out specifically in the economic corridor, because we don't even have the ability to grant people zoning for garden homes
When
today.
the garden home part comes in, that'll be on our development plan or a PUD or a SPUD, and for instance. That'll be under a development plan.
Yeah, I think we'll have to talk more about that, because
look
I
on
don't
your plan.
believe we have any active guidelines for how to do garden homes today.
Right, but that's what I'm getting at. That's under your PUD or SPUD ordinances.
We do have
So-
a motion on the table, though, so
So
do,
can I speak?
well, do we have a second first, and then we can discuss that more? The motion, I believe, was to table it, Mr. Clemens?
I believe his motion was to send it back to,
Was to send it back to
the
master
to the
plan?
master plan
committee?
review committee.
Take into account for tonight.
Okay, so first I need to hear whether we have a second on that or
I'll
not.
second that.
Okay, so because we have a motion on the floor, we're going to have to vote on that, but we can take comments on that motion. I believe Mr. Engler had something first?
I was
Somebody else
waiting.
have a comment?
I was actually, because I'm listening to y'all make comments, and my question is, if I may speak, I'm making sure. it's okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I heard earlier, we're going to send this, the other leaflet, through the parish to WPS. Excuse me, WSP. And it has to come back in front of us anyhow. We're not voting on it, it's coming back in front of us, and we'll have a chance to vote on it then. So we send this back and delay it. It doesn't, just because we send it to them doesn't mean we're approving it. It's going to them, the same process. It's going to come back to us. We're going to get the opportunity, yes, no, change it and stuff. It's no different than what we did earlier. We sent it through and it can come back. It's not a vote on it. It's just, if we go backwards and say a no, well, I'm not saying we have to rush it, but I don't believe we're going to vote on it next week. We had the process to discuss it.
But I believe what we're doing in passing it to them is saying, we recommend as the Master Plan Commission, or as the Planning Commission, that you include this in our master plan. And so we're asking them with a favorable opinion from us to take that into consideration. That's
Well,
my concern with this.
And I took it earlier when I sent this other one. I might not have been in favor of it. But we sent it for them to look and come back to us, and then we vote if we're in favor or not. So I can't decipher the difference in what we're doing because we're sending it. It's going to come back to us. We have time to review it and say no then. We're not rushing any different than we did the one previously.
I think the big difference is that on this one, we know that there's issues that need to be looked at some more. And so that's the reason I think he made the motion and I seconded it, to send it back, to edit it now before, when it comes back here and it's improved, then we make the recommendation to send to WSP.
The motion on the floor is what? To send it back to the Master Plan Committee for changes, maybe?
For further input based on, I think, the conversation here tonight, notes that Mr. Clemens has taken down.
Okay.
So when you say that, Mr. Wax, that we know there's problems, that's your opinion. I may not think there's a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's at least
You know,
two
that's
of us. We have a motion
well, that's
and
what
a
I say, it's
second.
opinions,
There's at
but
least two of
that's
us that
why
feel
I
that
would
way.
like to, I'm not saying that. Okay.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor, so unless there's a substitute motion, we need to vote on the current motion. So, do we need to repeat the motion, or is everybody clear on what the motion is to send this back?
Repeat the motion, please.
Mr. Clemens, could you repeat your motion, please?
I wanted to send it back to, make a motion to send it back to master plan for some slight rewrite here. We've heard some council people that spoke and a few others. And obviously, they were concerned about the high-density housing. But the suggestion I heard that I liked was that we say, we want to encourage actual economic activity, not housing. And at this point in time, we can write that into this ourselves and say the recommendation we want to make. We don't have to send it on with Scooter to WSP exactly the way it's been presented. But if we made that change, I'd say, make a motion that we send this on to Scooter to ask WSP, consider the preferred uses, and just eliminate mention of the high-density housing. It's not forbidden, but it's not the recommended primary use.
I want to say something. Mr. Bryan, you was totally agreeable to this in the Master Plan Review Committee. You did not voice any opinion against anything. No, you did not. You did not voice your opinion on anything in this document. Tonight you come in and you do that.
Well, if he didn't, I would have, and I'm not on the Master Plan Review Committee.
You can do it.
And I think he can do it too, based on
Well,
information he's heard from other people in the
I just
room.
question why he turned tonight. That's my
I can tell you why I question it is
trying-
because Livingston Parish does not have a residential development problem. We do not have a lack in that regard. If you talk to anybody, they will tell you we've got too much in their opinion, and I think that's debatable,
Well,
but it's not, I'm still speaking.
That's your
We
opinion.
are not lacking in that regard.
That is
What
your-
we are absolutely lacking in points A, B, C, E, F, and G
Well,
on here.
You saying
So
there's too much residential development is your opinion.
I'm saying we don't need to
My
attract it in
opinion
the
is,
economic
I have
corridor.
a different opinion about why we need a residential.
And
Look,
you are entitled to your opinion, and I'm going to call for a vote on the motion unless Mr. Clemens was making a substitute motion. Yes, sir.
I try to be responsive to everything I'm hearing up here. We came to some decisions in our committee, and that's true. But at the same time, we're also taking input from these people here. And I can see they had some concerns, and I'm trying to respond to that. But it's not a question of turning on a dime, rather than I don't have my opinions cast in stone when I get here. I'm here to listen to everybody, hear what they have to say. And yes, sometimes that will color what I think. I think that's my purpose. But as such, I would like to call the question.
Okay, we have a call to question, so let's take a vote on the existing motion, which was to send back to master plan for further consideration.
Mr. Engler,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Guidry,
No.
Mr. Wax,
Yes.
Mr. Dana,
Yes.
Mr. Byrne,
No.
Ms. Ferris.
Yes.
And it's taken under consideration.
So is that 4-3,
4 to
send
3.
it back? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
council.
Thank you, Ms. Burgess. Moving on to item number 6, introduction of ordinance, amend chapter 117 zoning, division 4, R2 residential single family, section 117, 155, purpose, amending maximum overall density of housing units in section 117, 157, site and structure provisions, and amending minimum width requirements. So do we have anyone here to speak on this ordinance tonight? All right, nobody here to speak on, was this Mr. Goff's ordinance, I believe? He went through it? Okay. Does anyone want to ask Mr. Goff any questions? I know we had this in our pre-read. It's pretty clear cut, pretty minimal changes, I think, to this. Any questions or any additional information, Mr. Goff, that you want to share about it?
Ricky Goff, 32774 Kirbywood Drive. I don't know if I need to keep repeating that, but so basically, R2, I think it is. Making sure I'm speaking on the correct one. And so it's good digest of what we're doing. And the whole conversation before, I wanted to kind of speak, but I'm just going to say that the master plan is a roadmap. It's not law and direction. That comes in front of the planning and zoning. But what happens in the economic corridor, that's where the real decisions are made. So that being said, I'm going to move on to R2 because R2 has the same part of it, but it's in our residential side. Everybody talks about cookie cutter homes, etc. So my thought process is, as I drive down these neighborhoods and these streets, we need a neighborhood where we have starter homes that are for people that are trying to get started, and you know they don't want to go in a mobile home, and they can afford a home, but they can't afford a big old home, and they can't afford it in a big old high level neighborhood. So they got to have these starter homes, what a lot of people call them. So how do we make those starter home neighborhoods look better? Because in my aspect, they're shoved on top of each other. We're facing the same problem with the minor resub. We put things in place and developers follow those guidelines. We got to fix that, and we are. So here's another problem with R2. They're so tight. So I'm simply stating from a 60-foot minimum lot size, go to a 65-foot lot size. So you pick up a couple feet on each side from both neighbors, so you'll end up with about a 5-foot path in between there. I'm not opposed to y'all looking at or making recommendations to make that more or whatever. One of the other things that's in our system now is the side setback is 7 foot on a 65-foot lot, but on anything below 65, it's 6 foot setback. So that gets them a little tighter. So right now, if you can picture, I know I've said a lot, but if you picture 4 houses on 60-foot lots, 6 feet apart. Now picture 4 houses on 65-foot lots, 7 foot setbacks. You got to have a little bit more property to get the same 4 houses on there, not a lot. So the developer's going to take a shot in his back pocket. And I know that. So how do I make it work for everybody? Get a little bit better neighborhood. He's going to lose about 4 lots on every 100 lots in a row, which is about $300,000 in his back pocket. I can live with that because when I drive down that neighborhood, I can see a little bit more of a neighborhood, a little bit more of a house, a little bit more of a wider backyard. Might not be as deep or just the same depth, but it's just better. So the simplicity is to go from a minimum lot size of 60 and go to a minimum lot size of 65. And then stay with the same 7 foot, or if y'all would prefer to go to a 6 foot setback line. So it's a very simple change, but it should give us a much better finished product. Anybody have any questions? We have some neighborhoods out there because density is a double-edged sword if you don't have a minimum lot size width. There are some of them out there that I think they're on 50-foot lot size width. This puts it where it's 60 foot, 65 foot. If we do activate R1.5, which I'm 100% behind, your minimum lot that you will have in this parish would be half an acre if a mobile home is sitting on it. In the past, you could put 4 mobile homes on an acre and rent them out. And that's what we got to get away from. We got to get away from many mobile home parks. But everybody that did those were following the guidelines that this parish put forth for them to do. And it's just time that we do better. We do smarter growth.
So
Anybody have any questions?
Just for clarification, this is an adjustment to R2. So just since we're talking about mobile homes a little bit there, mobile homes are not permitted in R2.
Part in R2.
They
No.
won't be permitted in R2 as
No.
part of the changes that are proposed in
That's right.
in
This is just so whenever you do have an R2 development, even if it's a 5-acre tract that somebody's got R2 and they want to do a family home, right now they can carve out 60 foot. This at least makes it to where they got to go 65 foot.
All right, so the only change, there's 2 changes to the language in this ordinance. I won't read it in its entirety.
Yep.
But the density today is density of no more than 4 housing units per 1 acre. That would change to 3.75. So if you're talking 100 acres of R2 property, you could do 375 instead of 400 homes. And the minimum width would change from, the minimum lot width would change from 60 feet to 65 feet. Those are the only 2 changes, I think, in this one.
Correct.
Commission, do y'all have any comments or questions? I believe Mr. Engler had a clarification he wanted to make, a grammatical or mathematical error.
Oh, Lord. Do I need to come back before you?
I know, it's just something that we may want to look at, may not.
Have the umpire throw you out.
It's really, here. On the side yard, you show a lot.
That's what is in the ordinance now. It says, yeah. So I agree with what you're fixing to say. We should take that language out. And I would like for this board to make that y'all's recommendation to remove that.
One says 65 feet.
That's right. That's right.
It's going to be 65.
That's right. That's right.
Do some change.
In my personal opinion, is we just
Yeah.
no. You're absolutely correct. I saw that yesterday, day before yesterday, because I was looking at trying to maybe move that to an 8-foot setback. But I think we should just strike that out. And if that would be y'all's recommendation, I would be happy to have that.
I don't know that we want to necessarily strike it as much as just, you can't say if
But there's no 60-foot lots anymore, so it's nothing
if
65
you're
or
65,
under.
you could do either. If you're 65, you
That's
could do a
right.
6-foot setback, and if you're 65, you could do a 7-foot setback, the way
That's
it's
what I'm
worded
saying.
today.
We just want to do away, we just want to leave
Yeah,
it where it
so-
says 65 or more, 7-foot setback, or 65 more, 8-foot setback, whatever, and just do away with the 65 and under part,
Well, I think,
because it just
I
confuses it.
think his
Right.
point is to say that it should read a lot width less than 65 feet shall have
65 or
6-foot
more,
setback.
7. Less than 65, maybe a quarter inch less. Check this.
My point, though, is there should be no 60-foot lots. That language doesn't need to be in there. In the past, it needed to be in there, and it was a little quirky there, too. So you might have some neighborhoods out there taking that same wording and saying 6-foot setback. I don't know. All I'm saying is I think it should read 65-foot setback 65 foot or more is 7 foot, and just remove the 60 foot or under. Just remove it completely. Just take it out of the picture totally.
Okay, other questions or comments on this?
Uh-oh.
Yes. Ms. Sankey.
I just want to make a quick comment that has been messed up in y'all's ordinance for years.
That's right.
So if we could, have the ordinance committee look into that, because it's all over the place in there and it is messed up.
I would like for y'all to make that recommendation. When we take it up at our meeting, which is based on y'all's recommendation, we're gonna make that change. And we'll adopt it and fix just like what she's saying, because it's been in there. So if you look at it, they could put a 65 foot lot and still stay at 6 foot. So now you got a width on each side that's a foot over here and a foot over here, but it's also we're trying to give them a little bit more room in between these two houses for that starter home people and not be shoved on top. And hopefully you won't have a window, a door, and a carport garage door. You'll have a little bit more width in there maybe. So if that would be y'all's recommendation, I would like to have that, from y'all as a recommendation, and we'll address it at the council table. And I'll support that recommendation.
Already been through ordinance committee, I think, a couple of times.
It
Is
has.
that correct? Okay.
Yeah, and we also have it in our public hearing as notices, just like y'all are doing tonight. So I think it's perfectly legal. You can ask your council to approve it based on that minor change. That's
Okay.
what the purpose of it is.
Any other questions or comments from Planning Commission? If not, what is the pleasure of the commission? Oh, Mr. Clemens?
Could somebody state succinctly exactly what changes we're making to this document here?
There's only two on the floor currently, which is changing the minimum lot width from 60 feet to 65 and decreasing the density from 4 lots per acre to 3.7 for housing units. So I think we're discussing another one about side yard setbacks, primarily because the language is not correct today, because it should, you can't be greater than or equal to on both categories there for the side yard. You got to pick one or the other.
I'm thinking a motion would sound something like this. We make a motion that we pass it as it's presented with the change of the side lot lines to be 65 or more 7 foot.
Just
And
delete
strike out the
first
60
line.
foot and under. That's just my thought process. You can ask your attorney.
You good?
Well, we don't need this.
Okay. Everybody's good? Any more questions, comments? All right. Do we have a motion?
I'm gonna try this. Sorry, Scooter. I'd like to motion to accept the new ordinance with additional change of the side yard, a lot width of 65 feet or less being restricted, taken out of it. Removed, excuse me, removed. So we'll have 3 changes, as Ms. Sarah. Just take the side,
The first statement in the
first
side
statement,
yard
not
section.
to
Greater than
65 feet or more.
Right. Greater than 65
that
or
there.
greater would stay. The statement above that would be struck. from the
So we'll make the changes, like Ms. Sarah said, with the 3.75 housing per acre. We will make the 65 feet minimum, and then we will take out the 65 feet or less.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Guidry seconded that. Can we have a vote, please?
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Ferris,
Yes. Okay, item number 7, introduction of ordinance amend Chapter 117 zoning, Division 3.1, R1.5 residential, rural, single family, sections 117, 150, to reactivate the zoning classification of residential, rural, single family. Anyone here to share information on this? If not, I'll try to, I think, sum up what's being done here, and my fellow commissioners can correct me if I misstate any of this. So, existing development code today, R1.5 is an inactive zoning category. What that means is that any parcels of land that are currently zoned R1.5 can continue to do with those properties whatever is considered a permitted use in R1.5 per our ordinance today. But as we saw in the zoning meeting earlier, no one can come request a rezone to R1.5 because it is an inactive zoning category. So the ordinance, I believe, is not only to reactivate R1.5, it is also to change the density so that we have 2 lots per acre specified in there and a half-acre lot minimum, which today I believe we don't have a minimum lot size. We have a minimum lot width, I think, of 70 feet. And then also, I'm forgetting part of it now. Mr. Goff, you may have to help me out. Am I forgetting something? It was the density and...
I think that's pretty much was it. The minimum lot is 70, and that can stay in there. It doesn't really... The only problem that comes up most of the times, if a mobile home is 80 foot, they can't put it across the property. They have to put it long way, horizontal, if you will. If you wanted to move that out a little bit, 85 or something, probably wouldn't hurt. But what this is designed to do is, as I stated before, and the zoning questions that y'all had before y'all that were being sent to the council, and also the work that we're trying to do on family petition, is there's a big void in there. So we have a lot of mobile homes in our territory. We have a lot of nice manufactured mobile homes coming out of manufacturers and coming into our parish, etc. And that's not going to change. And I don't want to put somebody in a category and say, oh, you can't do a mobile home. But at the same time, from our zoning aspect that we have in place now, and years ago, we didn't have no options. So you got what you got. And I'm 100% behind the legacy concept, because these are all problems that has been allowed to happen because that was the guidelines. So this allows a property owner, just like this lady was here and had, I think, 1.5 acres, 3.5, 3/4 acre, 3/4 acre, and they got mobile homes all the way around. But she can't do nothing because she don't have enough property. So this allows a lot of flexibility there to go 1/2 acre. So when you look at 1/2 acre versus in R2 where it's just all homes, and you look at the density, you can put like right at 4 homes on the same acre, where this you would have 2 mobile homes. So I've said it before that if I envision and see a parish that has all 1/2 acre lots or 1 acre lots, no matter what's on it, I'm thinking that's a pretty good looking parish. Because if that person has a mobile home and they're getting started, and then somebody builds a house next to them, and then somebody builds another house next to them, then they might build the house as well. So mobile homes are just that, they're mobile. Where they go is the problem. Before, you could put 4 mobile homes on 1 acre, and that's got to stop. And this is what it does. It allows the people that's doing the right thing, like this couple that was here before, allows them to do the right thing, but it still puts them in a pretty tight box. You got to put it on 1/2 acre. So that way, if a developer comes in, or somebody, or I'm going to say a developer, it's not really a developer, it's an investor that's investing for his future or her future for retirement, and they want to buy some property and put a mobile home on it and rent it. There ain't nothing wrong with that. If it's in the right place in our parish, etc. But instead of being able to put 4 of them on an acre, you're only going to be able to put 2. You're only going to be able to put 2. So it kind of minimizes or eliminates the term of mini mobile home park, which has always been a problem and we don't need, but we need to take care of our constituents and allow them to do what they need to do with their family members and things of that nature, or get started. Any questions? I would just ask y'all to look at the consideration of the width. I don't know that that really makes a difference, 70 foot. It just,
I don't know that it does since it's a minimum.
yeah. I mean,
Go 85.
It-
Laying it out, they go 85.
and it said,
'Cause it's a
but what it
minimum.
does say, it does say it's a minimum of 70 foot.
You can go bigger.
So if you, that's right, and you just don't have to go as deep.
Yeah. And I don't think we'd want to lower it because we just
Definitely
put
don't wanna
R2
lower
at
it.
65, right? So
Definitely don't
yeah,
wanna
I think
lower it.
leaving it there is probably fine.
I was just looking at the fact it's an 80-foot mobile home and you want to have a driveway, man, you're forcing that constituent to take that mobile home instead of presenting it to the road in the front, you're forcing them to turn it sideways. Does that make sense?
That's it. So, wider,
Right.
not as deep.
Yeah.
It depends on the lot itself.
It does. And I'm perfectly fine with 70. I'm perfectly fine with 70.
That'd be a very long, skinny lot.
Well,
So
the
I-
half
I-
acre is not a perfectly squared half acre.
It can
It
be
could be
anything.
this big by this big, or, you know.
Yeah, and all
it's
this
not
is
an
saying that the
arpent or
minimum
a
width
set
is,
limit.
the minimum width would be 70. So down the road, if you have mobile homes down the whole street, and then somebody comes in there, a developer comes in there and says, I'm gonna buy all of it, moving all the mobile homes out, and I'm building houses all the way down. Well, he's gonna build them on a 70-foot wide lot because that's what he's got. So that's kind of the intentions of it. The intention is to solve a lot of these problems that we had at the zoning meeting, to where Mr. Scooter and them can do their job and get rolling. If we have something that's real quirky, and this family petition is another dynamic that we're physically working on right now, but it's got some work to do. We got some work to do on what we have, but we're trying to get that moved forward as well. And that will still have to follow the same protocol of what the property is. But it's also geared to help our constituents in our community and their families take care of each other and not send them to the bank for a loan. Anybody have any questions for me?
This is taking 2.5 houses to 2 houses per acre, correct?
1.5. Yeah. Yes. Sir.
No, I'm not talking about 1.5. Instead of allowing 2.5 houses per acre, it would allow 2.
Two.
It's
That's
allowing
correct.
2
Or a
in the
half
lot.
acre lot.
That's
It
correct.
has to be a half acre lot. I think it's both, right? It's not either or.
Yes.
With a minimum lot size of a half acre.
Yeah. So it kind of does the density as 2.0 acre, per acre, just to, mirror that in there in case. So it could be very, yes, sir.
Mr. Ricky, I just want to thank you for changing this ordinance and making it possible for a half-acre lots. But, I've heard mobile homes called trailers and people living in mobile homes that are denigrated. But let me tell you who lives in mobile homes. The manufactured housing is its technical name, okay? They're the elderly, they're the sick, they're the low income, they're retirees, they're young people starting out. They're not going to live in that house, the little mobile home forever.
Yes, sir.
We have to have a little compassion for people in this parish. Everybody in this parish cannot live in a $300,000 house.
Yes, sir. I don't
Okay?
disagree with. I
And
agree with you 100%.
I think it should be a starter home for young people, but it's a way station, it's an end game for people that are retired and sick.
Yes, sir.
So let's have, and I appreciate what you're doing. We should have compassion for people that do live in mobile homes.
Yes, sir. I agree. I'm going to take it one step further for you. The rental aspect. People need to be able to rent,
Affordable housing.
but they don't need to be able to rent 4 mobile homes on 1 acre just so that guy can put more money or that lady can put more money in their pocket for retirement, and then us will end up with a mini mobile home park. So if you rent this property and that person invests, then they're investing in it on a half an acre.
Right.
Which that person that is renting and trying to get by and get to the next level, they have a much better piece of property to rent as well. So,
it's affordable
I appreciate
housing.
y'all. That's right.
We need affordable housing in this parish, okay?
Yes. You got a question, Mr.
Now, this isn't specifically for just trailers. You could still build a house.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. For sure. And I said that before. If somebody wanted to do 1.5 and put homes in on every one, on half an acre lots and do a development, I think that's a pretty good looking Livingston Parish. At a 70-foot wide lot, and you want to do homes and I think you're going to find that's going to happen some because of some of the restrictions and things and the pushback on the R2. I think you're going to have some of them that's going to maybe want to go. Can't really go to the R1, but they'll look at the R1.5, and that's.
I think we're just as likely to have it go both ways. So people that would have asked for R1 or would have been forced to ask for R1 will ask for R1.5 now, which is directionally probably not where we want to go. But on the flip side of that, you'll have people that were going to ask for R2 that also ask for R1.5. So which of those ways does the line fall? I don't know.
I agree. But if you take that same comment that you just made right there, and you say if they can't go to R1 to do homes, and you push them to go to R2, then what you have the cookie cutters, and we're trying to put a 65-foot setback line. That's what you have. You have no choice.
Except you don't have mobile homes in R2, and I think that's right. That's kind of the dividing line.
But the developer has the option, if it's $1 and cent, to do 1.5 and not have mobile homes in his same development, if you will. So the 1.5 helps the lower end and lower side, and it also controls our mini mobile home parks, if you will, by putting them on a half an acre. So I don't see any negative at all to 1.5. I see it solving a lot of problems, helping a lot of our constituents, and also giving the developer a little bit of opportunity to go on half an acre lots and maybe build a better home and have that next level up from the starter home, which is what I'm hoping for.
If you own a trailer park and you have to put a trailer on every half acre, you're not going to make a lot of money. A half acre, one trailer per half acre, you're going to go out of business. They like to jam pack them in there, so that could be a deterrent, for unauthorized.
We have a mobile home park ordinance, and any investor can submit the guidelines for a mobile home park, and he can shove them all in there.
I think
this would not apply to mobile home park, though.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
It'll be a backdoor way to do I don't think it'll be a deterrent, which I think is probably just a matter of anybody's opinion at this point, because pulling a trailer onto a half acre is certainly a lot quicker and cheaper than building a stick-built home on a half acre. So if you're looking into a place to develop a rental property, what we see a lot of come through this meeting and through the council, and we've had a history of granting waivers so people could keep adding mobile home after mobile home in places they shouldn't be. And I'm not talking about half acres, I'm talking little bitty lots and squeezing them onto pieces of property that they skirted the mobile home zoning, they skirted the mobile home application process and squeezed as many as they could because they kept getting waivers. If it was cost prohibitive to do rental trailers, I don't think we would see as much. So will we see less with it being half acres? Maybe, but we're still going to see some.
I think all those comments that you just made was previous.
It was
previous issues, and we're going to call it legacy. That is not permissible anymore. So we need to stop talking about what was done in the past and how can we get a better looking community moving forward for all of our constituents, including that investor that wants to put his money on an acre of property and put 2 mobile homes and maybe not make so much. But when he finishes what he's putting in the market for rental property, when you drive by on the street, you don't really know if it's rental or if it's somebody that owns it. When you look at what's in the past and legacy, you know for sure because they're stacked up and all you got is a driveway in between. So I'm done. Y'all have any questions for me?
Goff.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment on this? Mr. Burgess?
Ralph, different hat this time. Ralph Burgess, 30562 Burgess Road, Denham Springs. One, I was very vocal at the beginning for this being taken out. This should have stayed in. Original zoning for this reason, you need a gradient. And I use the term gradient from an R2 to a 1. You have lots now currently zoned R1 and higher that are under 1 acre. They're non-conforming. Do you really want a 99/100ths of an acre that's non-conforming? Someone come in here and say, I want to make my lot conforming, go to an R2, that now they can put a high density issue in there? They have every right to ask to have that zoning created to be get out of a non-conforming situation. Whereas if you had a 1.5, you can allow that 99/100ths of an acre to be zoned 1.5. There's plenty of examples around. You've had 2 tonight. There's plenty of examples around that where 1.5 would benefit not only this parish, I'm negating the mobile home issue, the house issue. I'm looking at real property. At the end of the day, it's about the real property. Okay? There's a lot of non-conforming issues we have now that 1.5 will actually fit in zoning we have.
In all fairness, if we do this, we're going to create an entirely new class that's going to be non-conforming in the same way. I'm not really in favor of going back and undoing what we just got done doing.
The reason why it's
I do have some people I do want to see help here.
Right.
One thing I do notice also is that reopening the zoning classification doesn't mean we have reissued new zoning.
No.
We can reopen the classification without having rezoned one single property. We can still make certain that it's rare, so we can deal with these legacy issues.
Correct.
We can open it up, have the possibility, but in our mind saying the intent is this is going to be rare. We don't want to make a big thing out of it, but we do need to help a few people.
Mr. Bryan, you're exactly right. This does not reopen for everything to be rezoned. It doesn't need to do that. It just opens it up to be able to have that movement like you had tonight, be able to do that movement and still be under the guidance of zoning. My point I was making, there is a lot of non-conforming out there that would fall into that issue we have on the zoning book. That was my point. Because at the end of the day, we're looking at a density issue. Do you really want an R2 up at the intersection of 447 and 63 at the corner there? That's a very rural area. But yes, a 9/100ths of an acre lot up there. You see, that's my point to it. You know, we want to be able to still have a medium, well, I'm called medium density type of lot. I know what my understanding was why it was dropped, because everybody thought we had too many zoning classifications. And by all means, I work in other parishes. We don't have a lot of zoning clarification.
There were a lot of meetings taking out R1.5, but I will say this. WSP was the company that actually initiated removing R1.5.
There's been many other parishes that put that medium density back years
Yeah.
because they see the need. So that's my take on it. Like I said, I've worked in many other parishes doing this stuff. So that's what I think it's a good thing to have the 1.5 back, because it gives that issue. You had 2 issues. It gives you a perfect issue to put in without having to go to an R2 and allowing a potential high density area in a more rural setting. That's just my 2 cents on it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Do we have any other public comment on it? Okay. Commissioner comments. I wanted to make a couple. I have very mixed feelings about this. So as Mr. Mangus stated earlier, districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 have 0 R1.5 parcels today in their current zoning. District 6 has 44, District 7 has 27, District 8 has 885, and District 9 has 1,479. So what we do here tonight disproportionately affects Districts 8 and 9 from the starting point that we're at today. So there are things in this ordinance that I don't entirely agree with. However, given the amount of property in 8 and 9 that is already zoned R1.5, we would at least be moving in the direction of a minimum lot size of a ½ acre, which we do not have today. So I think it puts those districts in somewhat of a better spot because it at least goes to a half acre there, whereas today, because they're currently zoned that way, but that zoning is inactive, they can do pretty much whatever they want with a minimum lot width of 70 feet. So that's my thought on it. I think I would personally prefer us wait to adopt this. I know there's work going on the minor subdivision ordinance as well. If I'm not mistaken, maybe the council could help me out with that. But I believe there's discussions of what's the number of lots that constitutes a minor resub, maybe reducing that from 9 to 4. My personal preference, I think, would be that we do those two things in conjunction, so we don't reactivate 1.5 until we have finalized what that minor resub number is. Do I have any other commissioner comments?
So what you're saying is the minor resub would take place of helping out people with the 1.5 where they have a situation where they don't want to go to R2, or is that what you're saying?
Well, today you can do, so let's say you have 100 acres of R1.5 property. And there's a lot of that in District 8. There are very large tracts of land covered in timber that were zoned R1.5. Today you can do minor resubs of 9 lots or less, and those do not come before the Planning Commission. So what ends up happening, and I think Mr. Goff and Mr. Shavers have articulated this in the ordinance meetings as they've discussed this, is we'll subdivide, and then down the road we'll subdivide again, and it's, I think, a couple of years, but you'll have minor resub after minor resub, so it's a bit of a loophole to get you to a point where you have a bigger development. You just had to do it over a longer period of time. So there's discussion of reducing the number of lots in what's considered a minor resub.
Wasn't there an ordinance where if that happened, you could only do that one time? It was bound to the parent tract. You couldn't keep splitting it up.
That's in process.
It's in process, I think, yeah.
It's kind of somewhat a piece there now, but I'm gonna have a couple quick comments, and then I got a question for the attorney first, if that's okay. So I just want to make sure I'm clear and I understand, and we let everyone else hear your input. And that is, we have 100 acres of 1.5. It is inactive, and it was on the books for that status. We're going to roll and synopsis that attorneys like to use. The synopsis is that it's approved, and now we have the new 1.5 activated. I come to this board, and I ask for that property to be subdivided. Do I go under the old 1.5 or the new 1.5? I know the answer. I just want to hear it from you.
You're going to wind up under the new 1.5 when you do that.
Thank you. That being said, all of this 1.5 that is out there, that it may have 4 mobile homes on it, because it's 1 acre and it's 1.5, or whatever it is, because you just have a 70-foot lot width. Anytime those come back up for re-subdivide or change of whatever they want to do, if they want to carve it up and sell more lots, the minimum that they can do, if this passes, is half acre. The only other thing they can do moving forward right now is go to 1 acre or go to R2 and put 4 homes per acre. So all I'm saying is what Ms. Sarah was explaining is, yes, we have a lot of 1.5, and we have a lot of area that don't have 1.5, whether it's out of compliance or not, whatever it is. Anyone that comes back in front of this committee as well as the council and asks for a piece of property to be subdivided, that's how they got to move forward, is 1.5. Again, if I see a Livingston Parish that has half-acre lots as the minimum lot size, other than a development per se of something that's R2, then that has no mobile homes in it, that's a pretty good Livingston Parish. And we're closing gaps. So the other thing I want to make a comment about is this commission, 2.5 hours ago, sent 2 items to our council for recommendation based on the approval of R1.5. So I don't see how you can table it or move it, and there are 2 totally different ordinances as far as the minor resub. But Ms. Sarah's right, we are working on the minor resub and moving that down to 4 lots, maybe 5, but probably going to be 4 lots. And again, it's one of those catch-22s with no zoning and no previous guidelines that we tried to close the gap on for a developer or an investor. Because I think they're 2 different things. You have an investor, buys a piece of property, makes money, and you have a developer that creates a community and makes a lot of money. But they all work under the guidelines that is presented to them. And that minor resub with no improvements is got to be closed. The gap's got to be closed up because we're allowing them to do some things that doesn't look like the Livingston Parish I want to see.
Mr. Rickett,
Yes, sir.
question. On the minor subdivisions, I've been away from it for a while myself. What's the minimum lot size? Do you know, square footage, or is it?
We're
Used to be
looking at
16,000 in the past, right? It's 16,000 square feet.
That's right. And you're talking about like
lot
if it's a
If it's a minor,
home, yeah.
that we talking about having a minor. So
yeah, but
that is a minor, right? That is minimum size.
well, we're referring to the minor subdivision without improvements as a servitude of access, and they put homes on it. And I think what you're referring to is a minimum. In the past, in the legacy, you could go in and subdivide a tract of land, and they went by the state guidelines for the health department with the MODAD system, if I'm not mistaken, and that puts it down to the 16,000 square feet. What Ralph said. So, yeah. So to kind of put it in perspective, 16,000 square feet and a half an acre, 1 acre is 44,360 if my memory serves me correctly. So you're looking at half of that would be 22,300 and something square feet. 16,000? 21,000. Lot better. So I'm just asking y'all to send it based on also the fact that y'all sent 2 things to us already and asking us to facilitate helping those people. And I'll have to get with Scooter about that because that's going to take some little logistics to get them people rolling. Any other questions for me?
Let me ask a question, and this
Yes,
may be a
ma'am.
Natalie or Morgan question, but if I have an acre of R1.5 property and I want to put 2 mobile homes on it, do I have to subdivide that?
Yes. Oh,
You
Yes.
have to subdivide that.
Yes, unless it's for family,
I'm
unless
sorry.
it's for direct descendants.
I can't hear Miss Natalie, Mr. Burgess. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yes, they have to subdivide unless it's for family.
Okay. And that doesn't change. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I want to make a motion to introduce the ordinance to amend Chapter 117 on zoning to reactivate the zoning classification of residential rural single-family R1.5.
I think he's just saying as is, as was presented to us. Yes, yes. Okay. So have to clarify that because we're not just reactivating because it also comes with changes. If I could real quick. Yes, sir.
No, it's reactivating 1.5.
Well, I think it's adopted as, or send it to the council with a favorable recommendation as it was presented to us tonight.
Okay.
I did want to call out one thing, though. So in the task force discussions, which I was on the zoning task force, we had discussions about whether or not to include mobile manufactured homes, and we were undecided. So there was some pros and cons, and I think we just kind of landed on, we don't know right now. And so that's why, part of the reason I think why we left 1.5 inactivated. I called several people just, hey, off the cuff, what's your recollection? And they said, no, you can't do mobile homes in R1.5. That's not the case, which Ms. Natalie corrected me on this week, but what that has led to now, I think that confusion is section 117-149A1 already said, including mobile and manufactured homes. We added a statement on A2 for manufactured and mobile homes and modular homes. Do we want to consolidate that rather than separate that into two different? I don't think we need to call it out in two places, so I'd say we just kind of strike it from one or the other and just clean that up.
Can I answer that?
Yes, sir.
Manufactured homes and what's the other word you use? Modular homes are manufactured totally somewhere else and brought in here on. They're not transported on wheels like manufactured housing. Okay.
Right.
So modular homes, basically, the ones in this area is made up north of Jackson, Mississippi, and I've visited that factory several times when developers were bringing them in Livingston Parish. So they are two different things.
I think we would
consolidate.
Well, I think we would include that statement number 2 under 117-149A2, and I think we would strike the statement in parentheses in A1. So it's permitting the same thing, it's just cleaning it up. Or you scratch this and leave this. Yes, I would say scratch the part in parentheses in black and leave the blue statement.
What's in parentheses?
Which one is it?
Yes. So if I need to do that as a substitute motion to Mr. Gerald's, I will, unless he wants to include it. Mm-hmm.
Scratch and this in your parentheses. Add that to your motion. Just what you just said. Two different.
Well, this stuff right here is under the land use development code. We cannot change the land use development code tonight. You can only approve the ordinance.
Right, but we're asking them, we're telling them, we like your ordinance, we want you to approve it, and I'm just saying we do that with the suggestion of cleaning up statements 1 and 2.
You don't understand it. You make a motion.
You make a motion already, all you gotta do is finish it.
Okay.
Just put this, add that.
Or we don't have to do that, and I'll just go up to the council meeting and tell them, could y'all fix statements 1 and 2? That's fine.
No, we can do it.
It's just a typo.
It's just a concern.
It's just a
that
typo.
we're changing the land use development code.
Or they could change it between
That is
now and
something
then.
we cannot do.
Either way, we'll just leave it there.
I can include that in my motion to include permitted uses A2 to include manufacturing, mobile homes, and modular homes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Guidry? Okay. So we have a motion from Mr. Burns, a second from Mr. Guidry. All right, can we call for a vote, please?
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wags?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes. All right, so that will be sent to the council with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. Item number 8, introduction of ordinance, amend Chapter 125, subdivision regulations, Article 5, subdivisions with improvements, Section 125-68, procedures for subdivisions with improvements. Is there anyone that wanted to speak on this? I will say this one is really long. If you look at that stage 1 section, there was a lot of stuff lumped into that stage 1. It makes me wonder if we should break that down further. I don't really have a problem with anything that's in that section as much as just the fact that it's very wordy and potentially hard to follow. Few other questions that I had, and I don't know that there's anyone here that can answer them, but I'll throw them out there anyway. It references frequently a development agreement, but I don't know if we have it outlined anywhere how we go about a development agreement or when a development agreement is required. Mr. Irving, do you have any input on that?
Yes. A development agreement is provided for by state law, but at this point in time, and Livingston Parish has done one or two of them, but we actually don't have a procedure that has been adopted yet for how you do a development agreement.
So I think that gives me a little bit of pause with this one, just because I feel like it's referencing something that we can't clearly do yet because we don't have that process.
It's literally on my plate to create that.
Just a couple other things that reference fee being required, but I don't know which fee schedule that would point people to what that fee is, or if I missed it somewhere else in the ordinance. I think that section 1 reference a sign is required, but I wasn't sure if, so that's stage 1. I wasn't clear on if the sign from stage 1 was the same as the sign that's required when you get to stage 2. I don't know. So this just general questions I had on it. It felt like a lot of stuff with maybe some potential cleanup still needed.
I have some, I'd like to.
Yes, sir.
Also. So we've looked at this. I think we passed this to the council and they passed it back to us to review it again. Am I saying that correct?
I don't think this one has come to us before.
I think it has, because I was at a commission. I think one of the council, they had wound up sending it back to us. What I don't really 100% agree on, if it's something that we need to speak on, 12568, after you talk about the fee, where payable to the Livingston Parish and goes to the Parish of Livingston and goes down to the staff, it jumps down to us where it says, after this meeting, the proposal shall be put on the Planning Commission agenda for for informational meeting with the Planning Commission. At this meeting, a Planning Commission may suggest any additional information or studies that the Planning Commission recommends be submitted with this application. After reading it, I have a hang up on that part of it. And what I'm speaking of is, I think this allows us to ask questions, ask for different studies. But if you don't ask the same study and the same question with every subdivision, every development that comes across to us, is that not leaving us liable? If I tell someone, well, I want you to do some engineering study, if I tell you to do some kind of wetland study, and the next one I don't do that, it sets us up for a libel suit if I'm asking attorneys. I mean, I'm kind of discriminating against one versus another. It kind of sets it up.
You gotta have some minimum standards. Not everyone. Some reason to have to.
Could you come to the microphone?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. Or if y'all have one there, you could just pass it down. That's fine too.
I'm just saying that I can talk really, really loud if you need me. All I'm saying is you better have some minimum standards that you apply to everyone, every development. If there's some particular circumstances that cause you to have one development do an additional study for some specific reason, maybe it's drainage, maybe it's providing a school, something like that. But you better be careful with that. And look, on these fees, Steve and I have talked about this a lot. On the fees, that's very technical. You got to make sure the fees are relevant and related to, the service that you're asking them to provide. So there's a lot more, I think, that's got to be looked at before you just rubber stamp and say, we're going to charge everybody $25. So,
I appreciate you
there's
speaking.
There's a lot more work to be done.
I'm sorry.
Can
I throw one thing in on
Sure.
that? I think the issue in terms of asking for additional studies, if in a particular case you can enumerate and state a reason that you believe an additional study is required for this particular development or should happen, and you've got a public health and safety reason for doing that, I think you're okay in terms of asking for the additional studies. It's the identification of the reason for it that you put on the record to protect yourself from that.
I thank you, Mr. Steve. My next question would be, unless something's changed that I'm not aware of, we don't make rules and laws. We abide by what the council gives us to go by. And when we start asking a question that's not passed through leadership, as far as not having the authority to push stuff on, we have an outline to follow, and we follow that outline, and that's what we vote on. We make recommendations to the council. We don't say yes or no. We make recommendations. So when we're asking these extra questions in another meeting, an informational meeting, which is another step that has been already guided and steered to us, this is your process. It also changes our process. Then it also tells us, you ask any question you want to, and I just choose not to leave myself liable like that on, well, I think you need to do this, I need you to, I don't want to have to fight it, because I know what that would put me in a position.
The Home Rule Charter specifically says that we do not legislate.
That's right. That's right. We have no legislative authority. And I didn't want to say it that way, but that's a fact. So I don't want to put myself in this place asking more questions that it's not steered from the one that's making the rules and laws for. Yes, sir.
I want to expand on that a little bit. I read this over several times when it came to us initially. All the studies are in this ordinance right here. It's the drainage impact study, traffic, fire, and then school. I don't think we can ask them to make additional studies. We can make suggestions about things to do, but mandating they do other studies, it's not in the ordinance. It's already clarified. How can we make them do other studies? It's not in the ordinance. Can we legally do that?
Yeah, you could if this ordinance
I'm asking
passes.
the council.
Okay. If you see a public health and safety reason that you need additional information, you have a right to ask for that information, and I would, that's not unique to the Planning and Zoning Commission. At the administrative level, if Scooter's Group sees that there is additional information that they need, or an additional engineering study that they need, they can ask for it.
Well, can you give an example of what the studies, a study would be, other than the four I just...
Well,
I thought this was, we would make suggestions to them to make their project better, okay? But they're non-binding suggestions. If they don't go by it, then we can't turn them down because they didn't go by our suggestions. But what other studies are we talking about?
Well, there's one in an incident that I know of, which came up in Deer Run, was as it was proposed originally, I think it had 3 entrances, and ultimately, I think the Planning Commission made a requirement that it had to have a 4th entrance. I'm looking at Tom. I thought that came from the Planning Commission.
My point is, all that is set in ordinance already, the number of exits, by the number of lots. It's already spelled out.
The study that you might ask for in that case is if they submitted a traffic study based upon having 3 entrances, that you could ask them to come back. We would like an additional study showing the effect of having a 4th entrance. That's the kind of thing.
My point is, it's already spelled out in the ordinance, whether they do or don't, based upon a lot that they have in a subdivision. It's already spelled out in the ordinance. I guess one concern I have here is if we're going to do this on all developments and they come here, it adds a lot more time to our meetings, and here we already gone beyond 3 hours and 10 minutes. Then we're looking at 4 hours. If we're going to do this, I would suggest that we break our meetings up twice a month. That's all
Well,
that's what I'm gonna request.
And it really doesn't matter to me, the time-wise, we do our job. But what matters to me is whatever I give one person, I'm going to be fair and give the other person. And I'm asked the same question. And I understand health, safety, and welfare, and I could do that on every one of them, the same question.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, for somebody in here. So I just choose to follow the rules that are set for us. And, you know, if the council has a question, or they have the legislative authority to ask that question. And I think we are here to govern and make recommendations. They meet the ordinances that we're requiring them to, and review that from that point of view. To me,
Mr. Mayor,
You know,
I think had something else.
and it's not in the ordinance, but what if it happened to be near a high crime area? You know, and look, you live in Livingston, I live in Baton Rouge, I know what high crime areas look like. So, and it's coming to you, it's coming this way. So what if it was a high crime area and you wanted to demand that they put a sheriff's substation there? That's just an example. You were asking for examples that are not in the ordinance that could be something that had to be dealt with. There are lots and lots and lots, as creative as you can be, there are lots of situations that, you know, can come up that you might have to deal with.
Well,
That's why the flexibility's there.
I don't think this planning commission here has the authority to designate an area of high crime.
I'm not saying you developed, I'm not saying you designated.
We don't have that authority, okay?
I'm saying it was there. They try to put a development near an area that's been determined, not by you, but determined to be a higher crime area. One solution would be, let's put a sheriff's substation there to offset that problem. It's just an example.
Well,
You were
that would
looking
be
and
done
searching
through-
for examples.
That would be done through a suggestion, is not as a mandatory study or mandatory who would pay for the substation?
So
That's the
let's-
point of the study.
Let's
I don't
try to
know.
hone the
I don't know.
conversation.
It just gets deeper and deeper.
It does. So I think, do you have another example to give, Mr.
I can give an
Rex?
example that recently came up when we were evaluating the Demco substation on 4H Club Road. We suggested or requested that they do several studies. We didn't really have the authority according to this. That's why it's being changed, I believe. But we didn't have the authority at that point to ask them to come back with data. It says in here, additional information was we wanted to know what that noise was going to do to the neighbors. Whether it met noise ordinance violations, we didn't know. We didn't have that information. So we asked for it. They came back and basically said, hey, your ordinance don't currently give you the authority to do that. And I don't know if they're right or not, whether there was some different opinions from the attorneys, but ultimately they gave us the information that I think everybody was looking for. But this, in my opinion, is why this is written in, so that it does give us the authority that when you see fit, and you can equally apply it to all developments, that you do have the authority to ask for that.
I think directionally, I think this is an improvement. I just question whether or not it's ready for us to say, yes, we recommend it to the council tonight.
Would it help any if we added the words "with cause," that we may, with cause, request additional information, but it's not requiring additional
no,
information?
but, and yes, and I can't disagree with that. Sure, to help, but it still puts me in a position that we're going to ask one and not ask all. Hey, look, make an ordinance that asks the same question. Give me questions that we can ask, and that's fine. But we ask them all, because I don't want to take Mr. Ricky here and say, well, we feel this, you standing there, so I'm going to call you out. But I want you to do this study, but we're not going to require Mr. Gerald to do it. That's the problem I'm having. I just, what you do for one, you do for all, or you wind up where we were, what you mentioned 2 years ago. I don't want that.
Mr. Goff?
I don't have a problem making suggestions, but them do a substitute. I have a problem with that.
Mr. Goff?
So a couple things, observation-wise, as I understand it, and I hadn't read that in a minute, but as I understand it, that's an informational meeting only. So in
Right.
my view, y'all are not making any decisions on that. Y'all are gathering information. It's when it comes to y'all and y'all actually going to make a vote on it, and then that's when Mr. Steve is saying you need to have darn good reasoning to make that next step and vote to ask for that. You're asking for it. This is informational only, and Mr. Gerald, you're going to do this piece of property. Would you be willing to gather the noise information for us? And well, it's not really in our ordinance or in your ordinance, but I'll do it for you. So it's an informational, informal kind of type thing. I don't even know if it needs to come to y'all. I think that the administration and everybody that's putting this together wanted to have transparency, right? And have as much input on it as possible before it actually, the clock starts ticking. So that's why this process is in. I think it definitely would be a good idea to slow it down a little bit, let y'all digest it, and then also give Mr. Steve the opportunity to create the, what is that, again, the agreement, developer agreement. So I think that part of this informational meeting is possibly to be able to create a development agreement. And I think most of our neighborhoods should have development agreements in it, even if they're just very simple. So that's what he's working on, and if he can kind of take a look at that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, I was actually going to write that into the development agreement process.
Right. So,
That
but
we
I just
would
want to
have-
make sure everybody understands that it's the informational only. It's like you're not making a decision, but it's
I just don't want to have,
but you're not voting on that.
but I just don't like the idea of saying, well, we're going to require this other study, and we're going to require this other study. Sure, information meeting, we want that, ask the questions, but to require, I want you to go do this study, we don't have that authority to do that. I don't.
I think when it comes
We
to the, I
massaged the
think when it
last one,
comes
why
to
don't
this,
we massage this one?
I don't really feel like massaging it at 9 o'clock at night,
Yep.
because it feels like a whole lot of massaging that's needed, but Mr. Guidry, I think, had a comment.
I was asking Mr. Steve if you were going to put in the agreement that other studies may be required. Is that what you were saying?
In the development agreement process, which is provided for in a different part of state law, which also does come before the planning commission, but it is a different process than either planning or zoning. Obtaining information is intended to be a part of that development agreement process, because ultimately there is a document that's worked out. So there has to be transparency between the party who's making the proposition and the parish as it reviews the development agreement. So obtaining that information is vital to that development agreement process.
But it would be other than the school, crime, or roads, or
It would be anything that one could reasonably say was necessary to evaluate that particular project because of the things that are unique to that project. A flooding concern that the water may go 20 feet deep there may not apply in another part of the parish. There are any number of things that could be geographically unique to this particular location that might cause the planning commission or the administration to want additional information about it. And if you ask for the additional information, particularly if it's like a rezoning request, but maybe even on the planning side, you ask for the additional information and they say, I'm not going to give you the additional information. Well, one of your options there is just say, well, I'm not going to approve your development.
yeah, and that would be in the agreement.
That would be, and if you're going to have if this process gets worked out with a development agreement, which is what this envisions, then yes, this would all be in the process of developing the agreement, which is an agreement between the parish and the developer about this development.
So would we need this verbiage in there if that was the case, if they're already putting it in the agreement?
That language is in there, but that language, that initial meeting process and obtaining information would literally be part of the development agreement.
Can I ask a quick question? Is this on the upcoming council meeting agenda? I don't think it was. So there's no hurry. It's not like it's been introduced at the council already and they're dependent on us to send it to them. Ms. Sanchez.
All right, I know we're all tired, and I know that, you know, it probably can use some work. But as the overall process, can we talk about that and see if this is the direction y'all want to go?
I think the overall process I'm okay with the direction that it's headed. I think it's wording of some of the things and clarification of some of the items in it is my only issue with the way it's currently written.
Okay, so just to clarify, the way this is written is they would have their pre-application meeting with the planning department like they already do. But then they would come to y'all for like an informal meeting. They would not submit anything. They might give you a concept plan, but it wouldn't have been reviewed by me. It's not like an actual submittal. And then at that meeting, you can make suggestions or ask for things. And then we would have to go out and like get together to make a development agreement that would then come to y'all for approval.
Yeah.
And when they come to you with the submittals, it will be everything. So when they submit their preliminary site plan or preliminary plat, they would have to have their drainage impact study, traffic impact study, everything up front to get y'all's approval.
I'm personally, and I'll let others weigh in as well, but I'm personally okay with the direction that's headed. One of the points in the way that it's written today is it references 60 days in a couple of different places, and I don't know if we need some further clarification with state law and when the 60-day clock starts for automatic approval and which step of that process that's in. That wasn't completely clear to me in the way it's written today. So I think it's headed in the right direction and just needs some further clarification.
So this should clear that up.
Yeah.
So if they don't address,
I think
like,
that's the
let's say I
intent.
review everything and they don't address my comments.
Yep.
Well, then I'm going to tell them, I'm going to come to y'all, say I have multiple comments that
Right.
aren't addressed, and then they can be denied and I have to do it again.
Yes.
Or they
So-
can choose to move themselves to a different.
Other commissioners want to weigh in on just directionally where this is headed. Do y'all agree with it, disagree with it?
I like it. I like
agree
it.
with, if we're gonna have an informational meeting, I agree that if we're gonna have an informational meeting that we can make suggestions, but I don't wanna go further than the ordinance that requires a developer to do, okay? Either here or in the planning on the development agreement. We can't make up ordinances as we go. And it should be spelled out in the ordinance for all developers to see, knowing what they gotta do up front.
I agree, and I don't know that this is there today. That's my concern.
Well, I think
is
the
if
language
I'm a
says-
developer looking at it, I'm not sure I'm entirely clear by the way it's written today what exactly is required.
Well, it says we,
What's our best opportunity?
Pleasure of the commission,
Yeah, that's what I'm-
what y'all would like to do.
So if would we want to table this or leave it direction?
Or send it back to the ordinance committee.
let's table it
Let's
for
table
1
it,
month.
and
Okay.
For
we can
1
bring it-
month, and then
We
we'll
can come in
say,
there and we can have a
maybe there's
discussion on
something
it,
we might
put
want
it on
to
the
change.
agenda,
So-
and start trying to bring it down to something.
I want to make, I'll make a motion that we
Well,
table
that's
this.
the problem.
I
Okay,
want to
so
make a motion, we table this for 1 month.
Mr. Burns made a motion to table the item for 1 month. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Clemens. So can we have a vote on that?
Mr. Engler?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes,
Ms. Ferris?
Yes. All right, I think now we're going to go to item number 10, which is the AT&T Tower in French Settlement with a site plan waiver. So do we have someone here to speak for that item? I think that was intentional at their request.
I think Nickens is first.
which one are we going to
Oh,
I
do?
know,
they wanna switch
before
it,
the
okay.
meeting, I was asked to switch those two items.
So they can
We'll
hurry
we'll
up
come
and
back
get
to it. No, we're going to come back to it, is what I was told. Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. Trip Lyons, 201 St. Charles Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana. Here on behalf of AT&T, we are requesting your recommendation of approval for necessary waivers, variances for construction of a new cell tower at a site called that is called French Settlement, which is on at 17458 Louisiana Highway 444. Quickly, appreciate your patience this evening. I know
We
you guys have
appreciate
put
yours.
a lot of time into this.
If you, I know it's difficult to hold the map and speak into the microphone, but if you could, we'd appreciate that,
Certainly.
please.
Trying not to get feedback as well. So this is a map showing current coverage. These are existing AT&T antennas. This is the location without the proposed tower. What this shows is that basically if you look at a site where there is a tower, red is best coverage, which is going to be indoor, in building. Your cell phone uses a radio signal, and so it gets blocked by walls, trees, buildings. So again, red is best coverage, which is indoor. Green is going to be in car, in your vehicle. Yellow is going to be outdoor. So right now in this area, there's outdoor coverage, but it's not real strong coverage. If the new tower is constructed, you get a significant area that gets much better red coverage, which is going to be. For this particular location, what we're looking to construct is a 195-foot monopole tower. This is Church here, Highway 444. The tower would be back here. What you probably can't see it, but right now there's a temporary tower there. There was a real, I guess, number of requests in this area, including from the mayor of the village, for better coverage in the area. AT&T was able to put in temporary tower there. This would be a permanent solution for coverage issues in that area. It would go pretty close to where the existing temporary tower is. Because of the width of the lots here, towers in the jurisdiction require setback of tower height plus 30 feet, and that's generally from property lines and also from any residences or other structures. So this tower, just because of the width of the lot, is going to need a waiver or variance for setback from this property line here. They couldn't, we talked to the church is the owner of the property. We couldn't go further this way on the property because this is a cemetery. So this is an area where they thought we could sort of, both from a site development perspective at work and try and minimize, even though we couldn't go further here, try and minimize the number of waivers or variances we needed from property lines. The tower it's a monopole, so it's designed, and we have a fall letter that says, even though the parish's ordinance and most ordinances that deal with these issues treat towers and setback requirements as if the tower, if something happened, would fall like a tree. Towers aren't actually designed to do that. Monopoles are designed to basically have sort of a fail point higher up on the tower, so if the structural load is exceeded, and it'll meet all code requirements, all parish requirements. If the structural load is exceeded, the tower basically bends over and doesn't go back because metal moves, so towers are going to move. If the load is exceeded, bends over, doesn't come back, so it doesn't end up falling on adjacent properties. So they're designed essentially to, there's some sort of structural issue to basically stay within the tower compound where it's constructed. That is the basic, I guess, need for the tower in the area. We did reach out to adjoining property owners. We have not gotten any objections from adjoining property owners, and so we would ask for your support on this, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions.
Okay. So Natalie, from the perspective of the planning department, have they produced what was asked for the waiver for this one?
Letters.
Did we ask for letters? Has that all been taken care of?
Not up front.
Okay.
That's usually asked for it
Okay.
if y'all choose to.
I know there was at least one resident that I talked to that was contacted that I think tried to get back in touch with you guys and said that he wasn't able to, and I don't know if that's just missed, playing phone tag or what, but I'll just put that out there.
Okay, yeah, because we had, with the way the process works is, so there's sort of site acquisition team, they reached out I had a report from them indicating that they'd sent out letters, they'd made phone calls. I hadn't heard anything back from them in terms of not hearing from people. We can certainly look into that. I had not
Okay.
heard from the team.
All right. And Ms. Sanchez, any parish review engineer comments?
All of our comments have been addressed. They are asking for the waiver, and we did not receive any letters either.
Okay.
I mean, they did send me their list, though, and they had sent everybody.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and open this one up for public comment if there's anybody here that wants to speak on this item. All right, and if not, we will close the public comment. So I'll open it up for commissioner comments and questions.
I got a question,
Yes, Mr.
Madam
Burns.
Chairman. What are the boundaries, property line boundaries that the fall radius? This map doesn't show adjacent properties. The one I'm looking at, it shows some, but to the far up and to the right does not show adjacent boundaries. What adjacent boundaries are included?
Gerald, look on this one right here. These red lines show it. It's on the back of that page that you were looking at. They were hiding it on the back for you. This one?
What about this?
I think so.
Yes, sir.
Those red lines are the property lines.
Correct. And you can
But
see.
I don't see the fall radius on this graph.
There is.
It's hard to see, too.
It's a dashed line on there that shows that it's labeled 225-foot tower setback. That's the 195 plus 30.
So it crosses, how many adjacent properties? Look like one of them is a house.
Yeah, it
Back towards
crosses into the,
444.
it
It looks
crosses
like
into
the-
the, yeah.
It's a
crosses
house with several buildings in right there. Is
It,
that- am I-
yeah, so it crosses into that lot. It's not, it looks to me from the survey that I'm not sure that we need a setback from the actual structure, but it definitely, the 195 plus 30 definitely crosses into that
two.
property.
It fall on two different buildings, on two different sets of properties.
Correct, and that's. yeah,
Have those property owners giving you a waiver that'll be signed and recorded in the courthouse that they acknowledge that there would be an encumbrance on their property, that they would acknowledge that this tower could fall on them? Has the property owners give you that?
We've reached out to the property owners. We have not received any, to my knowledge, we have not received either their approval or objection to the tower. We've reached out to them, and in accordance with the parish's telecom ordinance, we believe we have complied with the requirements in the ordinance. And I know and understand that the position is going to be that if we're asking for a waiver, that you guys want to make sure that there are no objections from adjoining property owners. We've done our best to reach out to them and try and get that response, but we just have not gotten a specific response from this property owner.
Have y'all approached these property owners that this tower could fall on their house, on their land, their yard?
We've reached out to them.
You can't get them.
That's the information I've received from the site acquisition team, and I've got a report in here that I believe we submitted with our application.
People walk.
Yeah, at least one person told me they had received a letter
must
and
be
they
the
were kind of
landowner
confused
that
as to why they
gives them
received a
the
letter.
use.
So I can vouch for the fact that the letters did get to at least the one property owner. Go ahead,
And
Ms.
again,
Barnes.
the tower is designed so that
I can barely hear you, sir. I'm sorry. I can barely hear you.
No, I'm sorry. The tower is designed so that it is designed so that if there is a structural issue, it stays within the existing compound and is not affecting adjacent properties.
You know, I've heard that said many, many times over the years that they designed the fall, and I've asked for the technology on it, and I've never received it. But it defies me that a tower won't fall at 130 miles an hour, but when it does fall, it flaps straight to the ground. That I don't get that. I don't buy that.
Okay, I mean, we have letters from engineers that attest to that, signed, stamped letters from engineers.
Sure.
I can't, I'm not in a position to say an engineer, signed letter from an engineer is incorrect.
Mr. Wax?
If I'm looking at this map correctly, is there only one residence, actual house or building within that 225 foot?
So that would be, there is a resident on church property, and they consent to
It's
the tower
on their
being-
property, right?
Correct,
This
yes.
is the,
Which one is the church property?
The
So it
church
looks like to the
property
southwest.
is
The
the,
building
it's the closest building to
is
the
almost
tower
totally
compound.
within the fall radius.
Excuse me,
The
sir?
church, right?
Yeah, the church building is within the fall,
This came before us about a year ago,
for the temporary site, I believe,
give or
yes.
take, and we rejected it then.
Mm-hmm.
The fall radius on the property, there's 4 buildings, the front's on 444. Apparently those are residences and maybe barns and outbuildings and so forth. The fall radius falls in their yard.
It does. I mean, well, I wouldn't call it it's the setback radius falls within their yard. Again, it's designed so that if there is a failure, it's not going to be falling into their yard. But under the parish zoning, under the telecom ordinance, the setback requirement affects their property. Correct.
Across adjacent property line.
Correct. The
So
parish
this does
setback
fall,
requirement.
this does go across adjacent property lines. Look like you got 4 adjacent property lines. You got 2 on 444.
And then 2, yeah,
Got
and those
3.
are,
Got 3.
correct.
1, 2,
Right, and we're seeking relief, based on the design of the tower, we're seeking relief
3.
from that.
3 adjacent property lines.
Right, and based on the design of the tower, we're seeking relief from that requirement.
Other comment? Mr. Wax, you have?
the only comment I would just say is that I think it's been asked plenty. People in your position have said this plenty, just like Mr. Burns said. Y'all come before us and you say that it's engineered to break halfway. I think any kind of information that you could provide in the future, it would go a long way when you're asking for a waiver. I think amongst us and the council, that I believe you do have to go before. You're asking for them to waive their ordinances. It'd be nice to have more information.
No, and understood, I think, and I understand that, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, you're asking to prove a negative because, I mean, for example, right, so I'm from New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina. To my knowledge, the only tower that came down in Katrina was a tower that was taken out by a barge that breached the industrial canal and caused flooding in the lower Ninth Ward. So to my knowledge, experience during tropical storms and other events in Louisiana has not been that monopoles like this have come down, or have come down outside. Have fallen like a tree and taken out adjacent properties.
And I've said it before. I think we could probably use an ordinance change for that. That if you came and had engineers stamped letters and calculations that show that, there could be an ordinance written that would allow you to not have to get a waiver, but right now it's not
I agree
existent.
because every one of these that hits our agenda comes with
Yeah.
a waiver request, so it's, something has to be looked at, I think, with the ordinance.
I got to ask one more question to the gentleman.
I believe Mr. Clemens had something, if you don't mind, Mr. Burns.
I have an engineering background. Several of them on this board do. What you're describing is a built-in weak spot.
Right.
Halfway up, 3/4 way up, you build a weak spot. And whenever that 130-mile-an-hour wind comes, this part should shear first. And if this one falls, it no longer has the height. Why don't you give us a set of plans that shows us where the weak spot is? We'd understand that real easy.
Okay, and I appreciate, and that's my understanding of the technology as well. From a, I guess, development process, generally speaking, they may not be going and getting a full set of they may not be going and getting a full set of design drawings and full set of construction drawings at this point in the process until they get through zoning. So it's a little bit of a chicken or an egg situation, because you're asked, and it's a reasonable request, you're asking for something that they may not always have at this point. I can certainly, check to see what they have, but a lot of times they're not going to get a full set of tower design drawings until they know they're through zoning, because why would they wouldn't want to go, spend the resources to do that if they don't have zoning approval. But it's a reasonable question. It's a reasonable.
Mr. Burns, you have a question?
Previously, when this came, the church here houses other priests.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were told then. But one of the priests had given permission to put the tower, and unbeknownst, the other priest didn't know anything about it. So that was one of the things that we denied it on. Do you know how many priests live in that house, in that building?
No, I don't know how many.
It's a
live
dormitory type.
Well, I know that we have a lease in effect with the church. I know that they know we're here. I know that we have a waiver letter from one of the priests who is there. And I can look. I'd have to look at my phone to get his name. But I know we have a letter that we received from one of the residents within the past week saying that they have no objection to the tower going there.
I just want to say, several years ago, we were before the ordinance committee. We wrote an ordinance that required the tower companies to get a signed waiver from all the adjacent property owners that this tower could fall on, and that waiver would be filed in the clerk of court for all future posterity. Everybody that bought a piece of property would know that there's an encumbrance there, and that's the direction I think that we need to go in the future, is to require them, make sure these people understand that tower could fall on them. Anybody else buys that property, they would know it too.
The ordinance definitely needs some work, because we're put in this position every time a tower comes.
That ordinance is still there. I got it from the parish clerk a month ago. It's still there.
That's what she said.
Yeah, we need to consider some of that.
Before the ordinance committee on that, okay?
I do have a question maybe for Mr. Irving. So this is within the French settlement limits, correct? So we have a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Village of French Settlement to handle their planning, but what is the basis on which we even consider this agenda item as a planning commission, since we don't have a master plan for French Settlement or within the village limits? We don't have any zoning in this area. What is the basis on which we're supposed to consider this, or should we even vote on it at all? I'm very unclear on that.
Okay.
Is it inside or outside? I don't know. Is it outside? Let's see. I would still like to get that question answered, because that comes up.
You have asked a very thorny question.
That's what I do.
And my way to punt on your question is that this is actually on the development side rather than the zoning side. The master plan is relevant to the zoning side. Your zoning's got to be based upon a master plan. The development plan has involvement with the master plan too. An approval of a plat is an amendment to the master plan, and there is master plan does sort of have to be the first part of it, but it's probably not quite as heavily involved as it is in the zoning process. So in the case of French Settlement, since they don't have a master plan, they would have some unique challenges involving both planning and zoning, because they don't have a master plan.
So I think where the tower goes is just outside of the limit. So it's a little hairy to me, because the church is within the limit, the village limits of French Settlement. The tower itself is outside. I think some of the properties that we're talking about needing waivers from here are probably right on that property line. So it's a little bit of a muddy one. Any other comments or, we have no letters, so any other comments or questions from the commission? All right, if not, do we have a motion from the commission on this?
You need a motion, you have a motion.
I would probably, can I make a motion?
Yes, sir.
I would probably make a motion to not deny it due to it's not meeting our ordinance going across property lines without any signed signatures as our ordinance requires us to have.
I second that motion.
I'm
So-
sorry.
I don't think that's in our ordinance right now.
Oh, it's not?
I don't think it's a requirement.
It's not a requirement. Now, he's still asking for a waiver, and you
Yeah.
are,
Okay.
you can ask
So-
for something.
So my question, okay, so I'll back that up. Let me ask a question then. Should ask, excuse me. We can send it forward for recommendation or approval without someone owning the property and possible the pole going across the property line. And those people decide to build a home there and falls in that zone, and they never gave approval. So that's what I'm trying to say. If we don't have approval.
No, so I 100% get what you're saying, but at the moment, I know Mr. Gerald did try to write up an ordinance, but it
Okay.
never got actually
Okay.
approved for the filing process.
Okay.
They are asking for a waiver. If you have concerns, you're more than, like, you can say, well, I would be willing to do this waiver if you do this, but it's not actually in our ordinance right now.
Right, I think it would be contingent upon them receiving the waiver, and all of these that have come up with the council recently, they've asked the same questions before they would grant the waiver, the exact same questions, and had the same concern. Okay.
So the motion.
All right, so,
I believe Mr. Burns has made a motion in the past that we have done something similar to this to make a recommendation to the council contingent on them requiring a letters be filed with the clerk of court's office.
That's right.
I believe that
That's
has
what
been
we
done before.
did that several
I
times.
don't remember exactly how he worded that motion, and we passed it, and I believe they did end up at the council meeting making.
so it would be contingent upon the council granting them the waiver and that those letters that were received be filed with the clerk of.
Yes, relative to the properties that it affects, adjacent properties that they get letters from all adjacent properties within that radius.
So, Mr. Wax, are you making that
Are you-
motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion to send a recommendation to the council for approval contingent on adjacent property owner letters being filed, being received, letters of no objection, notarized letters of no objection filed with the clerk.
Well, and plus the letter should include the fact that this tower could fall on them, and they recognized that.
Okay, we have a
You write
motion.
letter of no objection, but those letters have to be filed at the courthouse
Do we have a
with the
second?
clerk of court. But
I second that
The
motion.
ordinance that we talked about was that it had to come back to us, those letters showing it was filed. That's the ordinance that we read before we approved it.
But we don't have that ordinance in place tonight, so.
Well,
Miss-
it's not. and you're
Mr.
right.
Wax, do you want to include that level of specificity that has to come back to us with proof that it's been filed with the clerk of court?
We're just making
Okay.
We're making a
I support-
recommendation
I
to the
support the
council.
ordinance.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Wax
they
and a
require.
second by Mr. Dana. Could we call for a vote, please?
Thank you.
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens? Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes. So that will be sent to the council with favorable recommendation contingent upon receipt of the waiver and those letters being filed with the clerk of court's office.
Contingent on them requiring. letters.
Correct. Okay, so backing up now to agenda item number 9, AT&T Tower, Nickens Lake, site plan with waiver. So similar item, different location. All right, so we have someone that is going to speak on the Nickens Lake Tower. Yes, sir.
Hi, Chip Lyons, 201 St. Charles Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, here on behalf of AT&T. You guys are aware there's a lot of population growth in Livingston Parish, so there's a lot of demand for cellular service, and AT&T and other carriers are doing their best to keep up with the increased demand. So the second tower we're requesting approval for is a location near Nickens Lake. The tower is also a 195-foot tower. As proposed, this one is a self-support style, which is sort of three-sided tower. It doesn't have guy wires as opposed to a monopole. To the extent it would help facilitate consideration of this, I've also checked in with the company to see if they could do a monopole style instead of the three-sided tower, and awaiting response on that, but have made the request to them on that. On this particular location, we also, because of pre-existing conditions at the property, we also need setback waivers. The tower is approximately 60 feet from the property line that goes along Highway 1032. It's actually about 90 feet from the improved roadway, but there's a buffer zone for utilities and other areas between the actual property line and the improved portion of the road. The reason the tower, this is the lot. The reason the tower is where it is close to the road is because a portion of the property is already developed back here and is not available for additional development for a tower. This portion of the property is wetlands because it's wetlands, company is not able to locate the tower in that area without either doing mitigation or getting a fill permit. Those are often for tower construction projects. Generally speaking, the company tries to stay away from wetlands because it just creates additional difficulty and makes the project less viable if there's a unknown wetlands mitigation issue that's out there. So for that reason, the tower is kind of tucked up close to the road. And I showed you a similar map for French settlement. This is a coverage map for the Nickens Lake area that again shows right now a large area of really spotty to little or no AT&T coverage based on what we have from the engineers. And if this tower goes in, you get large area, much better coverage in the area. We're aware of the potential residential development across Highway 1032, and we're also aware of opposition from the developer to this tower. We did reach out, or the site acquisition reached out, and we received those comments back from the developer. I know there are some concerns about the visual impact of the tower. I guess the response on that is that we're sort of going, we've looked at the company looked at a number of different sites to put this tower. When they identify a gap in coverage, they have a search ring that's about a half-mile radius because they can't be too close to existing towers or too far away in order for the coverage to work. We were originally looking about a half-mile to the northwest. They were not able to find a willing property owner. We were able to find this property owner who was willing to make this portion of the property available to us. This was essentially the best we could do in terms of finding a location in this area to meet the service coverage issues that are out there. I think there was also concern about adverse economic impact. We have on a number of sites specifically gotten economic impact studies, those studies that we've obtained in the past. My experience shows that they show that the towers do not have adverse economic impact. And in fact, having in-home cell phone coverage and data coverage generally is going to be an advantage to properties that are being developed. So for those reasons, we are respectfully requesting that you recommend approval on tower at this site with the necessary setback variance because caused by the pre-existing wetlands condition on the property. And
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments from the planning department? Okay, what about Parish Review Engineer?
All of our comments have been addressed. They are asking for a waiver.
Okay. All right, we'll open up public comment for that. If there's anyone here to speak on this item? Okay, if not, public hearing is closed. Commissioners, comment, questions?
There are no houses in the fall radius, correct?
that's correct.
Is that correct? I don't think so.
I mean, no, I don't think there are any houses in the fall area.
There's a highway in the fall area. There's a very heavily traveled highway in the fall area.
Thank you. This one is a little bit different than the last one, but I guess across the street, Livingston Holdings, according to the map you got had a while ago, that's a wooded area. Am I correct? There's no houses over there or nothing. Am I correct?
Currently, yeah.
But like Mr. Clemens says, this is a state highway.
Correct.
The parish council cannot give you a waiver on a state highway.
Well, the state
can't even give you a waiver on a state highway.
Well, my experience is that we have built towers within tower height distance from state highways on multiple occasions. And DOTD has granted necessary curb cut permit for this that's needed for this tower site. So they're aware of what's going on. There's an existing drive there that needs to be improved to provide access. We have a permit from DOTD for that. So they're very much aware of the project and have granted a permit.
That's a heavily traveled road down there, and it's fixing to get a lot heavier with the major developments coming. People travel that road, school buses.
But let me. Can
I finish? Can I finish?
Yeah.
Can I finish? It's a safety issue, and we cannot give you a waiver or recommend a waiver. I don't think so on a state highway. And the parish can't either, because they don't have jurisdiction over state highways. I don't even think the state can give you a waiver on state highways. Through.
No waiver is required to construct a tower near a state highway from the state. The jurisdiction, the parish has a requirement for a waiver for a tower constructed near a property line. That's why we're here. But the state, there are no, to my knowledge, we have never had to go to DOTD to get a waiver to construct a tower, because does any other utility company have to go get a waiver to put a utility pole in the public right-of-way? Utility poles come down. But does Entergy, Cleco, Demco, whoever, do they have to go get waivers to put utility poles near residences? No. People have houses with utility poles around them all the time. So you guys, I understand the concern. We understand the concern. But what the commission, I believe, is doing is coming up with a requirement that applies to a cell tower. It's not going to apply to other similarly situated towers, nor is this requirement set forth in the parish ordinance, nor is it set forth in state law, to my knowledge.
Let me see. Paragraph 1D says, to any adjacent property line, a state highway is a property line.
Correct.
A parish road is a property line.
Correct.
And this ordinance is very explicit. It is a property line, and
Correct.
You cannot cross it according to this ordinance.
Without a waiver. So we're asking you for the waiver from that property line. DOTD has issued a permit for the work that is being done in this area. So whatever we need to do with DOTD has been handled and or addressed with DOTD. Respectfully, I don't think it's a position for this planning commission to say, well, you can't do that because of a state law, because of an issue between us and DOTD. We want to focus on what we believe the commission has jurisdiction over, which is a setback from a property line, as opposed to what DOTD does or doesn't require. We believe we've satisfied
I'm only
what DOTD
looking at the ordinance in front of me right here. It says it cannot cross adjacent property line. A state highway is an adjacent property line, period.
And we have a DOTD permit for what we're doing.
Can I ask you a question? Across the road is a wooded area. Why can't you move this tower in the wooded area away from the state highway where you wouldn't have this issue?
Because the property owner does not desire to have the leased property to AT&T to construct the tower. AT&T cannot go out like a traditional public utility and just take property from people, condemn property, expropriate. We have to find willing property owners who are willing to lease a portion of their property to AT&T for construction of a tower. So we just don't have the right. We don't have the right to do what other utilities can do, where they can go just basically put utilities in a public right of way, or if they need to cross somebody's land and they can't reach agreement, they can go expropriate. We just don't have that authority.
Okay. Do we have any other comments?
We can't even do the motion that Mr. Wax did a while ago because we can't give a waiver on state highway. So I want to make
If
a motion.
DOTD gives him a permit, that is the equivalent of the highway giving him a waiver to their property line. It would still be contingent upon the waiver.
Yeah, we don't give waivers, but as Mr. Wax.
Are you saying the state can give you a permit to do this?
The state, there's an existing curb cut that has to be improved, and DOTD has issued a permit for that work. I have a copy of it probably in my chair over there. I believe we submitted it to the jurisdiction.
Ms. Sanchez, did you have something
as
else?
Requirement.
Yes, I require them, if they're on a state highway, to get an access permit from DOTD, and DOTD has the opportunity to look at their site, look at their connection point. They can require traffic studies. They can require a hydraulic study. I have had this instance come up in the past where a lot of concerns were made about it being in a state right-of-way and getting permission from DOTD, and when I spoke to DOTD, they said they had no authority to tell someone they could not put a tower that close to their right. So we've quit asking about it because DOTD told us they can't do anything about it anyway.
I think the authority is with this commission to deny it based on being too close to a property line, whether that's a DOTD property line, the property owner's property line, or an adjacent, not across a highway. That's the decision to make. I think he brings up some really good points.
So it would be contingent upon a waiver.
And DOTD has essentially said they don't necessarily have a problem with it, but if the parish still has a problem with it, this body has a problem with it.
Well, it violates our orders. It violates both. I can't speak for the state. I just don't believe the state's going to give you the authority to do that.
We won't figure that out tonight, though, so all we can do is decide if we want to approve it based on our current ordinance or punt it to the council to see if they want to approve a waiver.
If I'm allowed.
Yes, sir.
I want to make the motion to deny the AT&T tower on Mid-Nickens Lake, and because it violates the parish ordinances.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion of that? All right, if not, can we call for a vote?
Mr. Engler?
I'm going to say no. No, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
No.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes.
It passed. Well, it passed to deny, but that,
All right, yeah, thank you.
I need to turn on my microphone too. Let me repeat that because I don't think I have my microphone on. Public hearing for MHP LLC preliminary site plan for US Highway 190.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
My name is Rudy Simcoe. I'm with McLennan Taylor. We developed this preliminary site plan for this 8-acre tract on US 190. This was previously came before y'all on the zoning side. It was recently rezoned to allow for this development. This is a mobile home or manufactured home sales. Not doing a mobile home park or anything, but this is for sales. So we have one building, a shed. We've allocated some room for a pond and a drive and a yard to house these homes that would be for sale. Be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any comments from the planning department?
no.
Okay. And we're getting there. We're getting there. And parish review engineer?
All of our comments have been addressed. We would recommend approval.
Okay. We'll open the floor for public hearing. Do we have any comments from anyone in the audience? If not, we will close the public hearing. Mr. Clemens, I believe, had a question.
Has any work begun on this site?
Yes, they've cleared it, and they had they're got a clearing permit in order to clear it, and they had a stormwater pollution prevention plan in place.
And dug the pond already?
Not familiar with the pond.
Yes. Other comments, questions? Okay, there, Mr. Wack, do you have a question or comment? Okay. Anyone else? If not, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Make a motion that we approve their preliminary site plan.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Mr. Wax, a second by Mr. Engler. Can we call for the vote on that one?
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Gidrick?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yeah.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
They got away with that.
All right, item number 12, public hearing, LPFPD, number 4, Station 7, preliminary site plan with a waiver. This is on Walker South Road. And thank you also for your patience.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Vincent Orlando with Quality Engineering, here representing the project on behalf of Livingston Parish Fire Protection District 4. This project is an expansion to an existing station, Station 7, on Walker South Road, just south of the Sibley's Grocery. Mr. Ricky let me know that this property was previously a old watchtower station that was donated to the fire district, so it is small. It's a half an acre, but the proposed expansion will add an additional bay that can fit a full-size ladder truck. It'll also take the station from 2-man small bunkhouse to a full 6-man station with a kitchen, office, and appropriate amount of amenities to service the area. We are asking for a waiver on the rear property line setback from 30 feet to no less than 9 feet, I believe is what So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, any comments from planning department?
No comment.
And Ms. Sanchez, Parish Review Engineer comments?
All of our comments have been addressed. They are asking for a waiver.
All right, we'll open the public hearing for that. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Mr. Mangus?
28283 South Satsuma. This is in my district. It's always been a very small, little tiny fire station. As of right now, they can't even support putting sandbags. So twice I had to get the approval of the principal to get sandbags dropped off at South Fork. The gentleman says that this improvement, this addition, they could facilitate that. Having a full-size fire department is very, very much needed. A tenth of the population is just along that 5.5 mile road, basically 6 mile road. So I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, what's to the north and to the south of it? The drawings don't really show what is on both sides. Well, specifically on the side, are you asking for a waiver on just the, what would be the east side, the back side?
Correct. It's the rear property line setback. So the north and south property lines are side setbacks, so they're actually less than 9 feet. But the rear is more restrictive for this use.
The arrow was kind of pointing to where it was right in the corner. Didn't know if that was the side or.
Yeah, it's the rear.
This is that white and blue Morton building? Currently?
I'm not sure the color. I believe it's white and blue. It's just a metal, sand and seam metal building.
Just Morton building.
Yeah.
The current zoning for this is R1, and I think this would be permissible within R1. The only concern I have about that is the property is a half an acre. So can we permit the work with this being non-conforming on a half acre R1 piece of property? I don't know if we have any legal input or planning or zoning input on that.
I believe our ordinance allows them, if you're already an existing commercial,
Right.
you can have additions.
Well, it's R1, so I think this is a permitted use within R1.
Right.
But if we're permitting something new and it's only a half acre, does that pose any problem? I don't think it does, but
I'm gonna get Scooter to look that up, but I believe there's actually an ordinance that allows for additions to existing commercials.
Okay. All right, do I have any other comments or questions on this one? All right, if no other comments or questions, what is the pleasure of the commission?
Make a motion to approve. Yes, correct.
Okay, so I have a motion from Mr. Dana to send this to the council with a favorable opinion from Planning Commission contingent upon receipt of the waiver from the
And
council.
I'll second it.
And Mr. Engler seconds. Okay, can we call for the vote on that, please?
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes. All right, we're almost there, y'all. Item number 13, public
Ms.
hearing.
Ferris, if just
Yes.
one quick second. That's why when we met with WSP the other day, I really asked for them to create an institutional zone which would encompass all government buildings, all schools, fire departments, things like that, then we wouldn't be restricted to like Jubin Park Elementary where they can't have a cell tower when there's enough room and things like that. So hopefully we'll have a institutional category because
so just for clarification, R1 does have permissible uses as, I think it's civic and municipality.
Yeah.
And so I think this would fall under a civic or municipal use. So
right, but it's a half acre.
From the half acre was
Yeah.
more my concern.
That's the
and
problem.
it being just non-conforming. Yeah, but it's in there either way.
But
so yeah.
there really should be institutional zone. I mean, it just.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mangus. Okay, item number 13, public hearing for the Woodlands Phase 2 preliminary plat on Highway 444. Mr. Easterly.
Good evening, Tom Easterly, 450 Laurel Street, 8th floor, Baton Rouge. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the applicant, Ascension Properties. As Ms. Ferries mentioned a second ago, this is for the Woodlands, and it is a preliminary plat for Phase 2. It shows 35 lots proposed. The most narrow lot, I believe, is 120 feet wide in width. The largest lot width is much wider, approximately 300 feet, give or take. The first phase is under construction, and about half of the lots are pre-sold. The lots that are pre-sold are projected to involve houses in the $500,000 to $650,000 range. My understanding is that all staff's comments have been addressed. There are no, well, I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have, but at the appropriate time, I would ask that this plan be, or the preliminary plat be approved.
Okay. Any comments from planning or parish review engineer?
We have no comments.
All of our comments have been addressed. We would recommend approval.
Okay, so we'll open a public hearing for that. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? If not, we'll close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, comments, questions?
I do have one question. Scooter, I'm asking, doesn't they have a max subdivision amount of lots in there? Total for all of them added together, am I saying that correctly? Wasn't it so we hadn't exceeded those numbers?
Not exceeded that number.
Thank you, sir. I thought I remembered.
I think the first filing was
I couldn't remember,
was
but it was
39,
a max
I think.
total,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Other comments or questions? Okay, I did want to bring up that the sign that's out there is not consistent with our ordinance. So the sign that's been up for the last 10 days doesn't have the total acreage nor the number of lots on the sign. So the first sign that was put up was a commercial development sign, was up for several days. That was replaced, and the commercial development sign actually had the lots and acreage. But within the 10-day window, the one that's been up there does not have the total lots, total number of lots, nor the total acreage. All right, other comments from the commission? Shocking, isn't it?
Can you say that again? I may have missed what you were saying. The sign that was originally put up said that it was a commercial development?
Put on somebody else's property.
Yeah, there's a long history
And the
there.
old gentleman came and told us all that.
Yeah.
The most
Then
recent,
we had to defer and move, and then they had to move the sign right property.
most recent development is when the sign went up for the second filing. It said commercial development. I cannot tell y'all the number of calls that I got asking how we approved a commercial development. Like, it's just the sign is wrong. So when the proper sign came out for residential development, for a subdivision, it's section 12537 requires that the sign have the total acreage and the number of lots, and the sign has neither of those things.
Ms. Ferries, I was aware that at one point the sign was not accurate because it did indicate commercial development. I'm delighted to tell you that I had nothing to do with the placement of the sign the first time or more recently. But with regard to the substance of the development, I'm not aware of any complaints based on the proposal and the nature of the development in terms of the proposed residential layout. In all candor, I can't speak to the adequacy or lack thereof of the sign relative to the comments that you made about what's lacking. Don't know what to say.
The picture that they just handed me has it at the bottom of the sign. I don't know. I've had several calls telling me that it's not there. And it could just be because of where it's placed on the sign that people haven't seen. So.
My position is what's in the photograph.
I've never seen someone with a lack of words until right now.
I'll text y'all all when I get home.
I know you want to.
My position is what's in the photograph that nice young lady is showing Mr. Engler, and I rest my case.
I'll be happy to be wrong.
It is only 10:20 at night.
Go to the house. It's at the bottom.
Stove's 35.
So I think that's the confusing part, is people are used to seeing it in the middle. It's typically higher up on the sign, and so that's probably what created the confusion. Okay.
It's there.
Unless it's AI, somebody chat GPT it. Okay. Whenever y'all are.
That was a who's getting yelled at. It's not
I'll make a
me.
motion. I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat based on the photograph of the sign.
I'm a second.
All right, so we have a motion from Mr. Wax, a second from Mr. Engler. Can we get a vote on that, please?
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne? Ms. Ferris?
Yes. All right, parish attorney comments. Anything else?
Time give you a competent comment.
Parish review engineer, any additional comments?
I hope y'all get enough sleep tonight.
All right, planning department?
No comment.
Okay. And commissioner comments, anything?
Yes, one more thing. If we got this much more on the agenda, let's split it up into 2 meetings if we can. Or
I think we would all
if we need to start having
support of
2
that.
meetings a month, we need to do that.
We've
I
done
get up
some
at
of
5
that.
in the
This
morning.
probably could have qualified for that easily. Only other comment I wanted to make, and I think Mr. Goff is our lone survivor from the council now, but there were a number of things that came up from an ordinance perspective tonight, and now I'm forgetting what the other one was, but cell phone towers being one, and if the other one comes to me, I'll send it to y'all, but a couple of things that probably need to be looked at from an ordinance perspective. So I just would ask that y'all take that into
Mr.
consideration.
John, I made some notes more specifically, John, so I told him to handle it. So we'll see what he does with it. So,
All right,
but I'll
thank
follow
you.
up with him.
All right, if nothing else, then planning meeting is adjourned. Thank you.